Epic Fantasy, Quest of the Elves, The Elven Saga Book 2 of 4. Written by Emmanuel Finn. Narrated by Tim McKiernan. 1. Retrieved. Sometimes you just don't know what's happening to you until you turn around. It's like looking at a big wall while everyone is telling you to look behind you. But you won't, because you don't know what's out there. You don't realize that you're missing out. The things you were looking for are right behind you, and all you have to do is see. But nobody has eyes in the back of his head. We all ignore the truth in one way or another, like ostriches putting their heads into the sand, refusing to be enlightened by greater heights and massive impulses of realism and authenticity. It's an irony not many individuals are willing to admit to. Unbelievable, Visus says. The diamond is right there. It's beautiful, Licinia says. Britko is still paying attention to the boulder he put up in front of the entrance they came through. He's been too busy minding the cavern creatures that snuck up to them, and he can only focus on one thing at the same time. Eventually, he joins the others by turning around as well. Wow, he says. That's a shiny diamond. Clear as glass, Warren says. I've never seen anything like it. The 4 elves are standing on a slightly elevated platform, overlooking the handmade room in a freezing cold cave. The room is decoratively distant from the rest of the cave, though, with a glamour and elegance that surpasses the dark, dusky shadows from which they just came. On each wall, they see a myriad of crystals glowing in the natural light coming from a hole in the ceiling, deliberately built in to emphasize the magnificence of the featured diamond. Down below, there is a path, a red carpet leading to the said object, signifying the necessity of a deep respect for this relatively small item. However, the most typical addition in this room, made from icy walls and crystal-clear shapes, is the presence of 4 statues on each side of the carpet. Every statue is made from ice, as well, and is holding some kind of weapon. Visus squints his eyes and counts 6 statues, 3 with maces, and 3 with axes. Their helmets are like those of the ancient knights they heard stories about, with certain spikes on each of their armor pieces, and other conspicuously defined elements and details in their appearance, ranging from buckles and capes to hauberks and shoulder pads. They have the image of fierce knights who fought for the preservation of the diamond. This makes you wonder what happened to them, doesn't it? Visus says. What are you talking about? Britko answers. They're just sculptures. Somebody must have carved them, that's all. What if there's more to them than meets the eye? Visus asks. Nonsense, boy. You worry too much. Come, let's go get that diamond. The reason why Visus hesitates is the exact same reason anyone coming into this room should be suspicious. It's all set up too conveniently. The red carpet, the ice sculptures in the shape of 6 knights, and the glass bowl covering the shiny, bright diamond, with rays of sunshine coming from above. What is going on with the glass bowl? Warren asks. Britko is getting impatient. Are we going to go get it or stand here and talk all day? It's probably just there to protect it. We can lift it up, put the diamond into our bags, and leave. It's that simple. Let's get it. Warren agrees. Visus stands back. He doesn't trust it. Watching the other 3 move forward and walk on the red carpet towards the diamond, he steps back instead and draws his weapon. They are getting closer and closer. Warren is leading the others and reaches out his hand to lift the glass from the stand where the diamond is situated. The moment is nigh. The anxiety can be felt, both the good and the bad kind. Each sense is only focused on one thing, the magical object in front of them. Visus, however, watches the environment. The waves of wickedness are floating in the air, set up to protect the valuable necessity to break the curse. Warren takes off the glass bowl without much effort. He reaches and picks up the diamond. See? Nothing is going on, he says, holding the shiny object in front of him after he turns around. The others look at Visus, who is still standing on the edge of the rocky, icy cave platform. Suddenly, he yells, Watch out! At first, the 3 elves beneath him don't know where to look, but then Warren sees it A giant mace is swinging his way, barely missing his head and sparing his life. "Whoa! What was that?" Britko asks while looking up. Visis was right. It wasn't trustworthy. It reeked of seduction, of a trap waiting to ensnare them. The 6 ice sculptures are slowly breaking loose, away from their pedestals. The ice falls around the warriors down below, who are in a state of panic and bewilderment. Each of the 6 knights has fully broken away from its abiding spot, and is coming at the trio to end their lives. "Defend yourselves," Britko says as he swings his club at one of the frosted knights approaching him. The knight blocks his blow with his axe and pushes Britko over, who falls to the ground. Then it's Warion's turn. "Die, statues!" He yells in courage as he storms at one of them with his gigantic sword. Missed. Warion's attempt to attack the knight gets interrupted by tripping over the leg of another knight. He falls onto the ground as well, face first, squints his eyes, and spits out the dust that entered his mouth. "Pfft! Lucinia, how about you take on some of these knights, huh?" he says. "No problem, rookie. Let me show you how it's done," she says. She rushes at one of the knights, but to no avail. The giant statue bangs her on the head with his enormous fist and kicks her to the side. All 3 of them are lying on the red carpet, either knocked out or thinking about giving up. Visis is surprised to see that none of the big knights have noticed him yet. It's as if stepping on the red carpet somehow alerted them of their presence. But stealing the diamond made them intervene and engage in battle. Visis doesn't have much time to analyze the situation any further. He already drew his weapon, and he realizes that this is his moment of action, of rescue, of intelligence and strategy. "I must avoid the red carpet at all costs," he thinks as he balances on the rims of the cavern platform surrounding the walkway to the precious gem. Towering above the knights this way, he sneaks up on the first one. Stab! The icy knight shatters to pieces after Visis penetrates its thick armor. It seems like the other knights do not acknowledge his presence. The young hero was right about the red carpet. From the one knight to the other, he stabs each of them from above, causing them to crumble up and making sure they are kept from harming his friends. Stab, 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 stab. A few other ones go down, leaving only one knight left to kill. The icy enemy is far away, though, impossible to reach without crossing to the other side. Visis looks at it. The knight is about to crush Britko with its axe, throwing its hands and weapon in the air above him to mercilessly slaughter the big elf. "No!" Visis yells as he realizes his friend's life might be in danger. He jumps to the side of the wall, almost slips, but manages to leverage the balancing powers of gravity to jump away from the same wall, dash through the air, and slice the large statue in half. Its pieces fall on the red carpet, and the 2 warriors who are still conscious look at Visis, almost in disbelief. "Well done," Britko admits. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Warion asks. Visis looks at all the pieces of ice on the floor. "From my father," he says. "He has taught me in the ways of the sword." "Impressive," Britko says. "Shall we go?" "Go where?" Warion asks. "We don't even know of a way out of here." "What about up there?" Visis asks, pointing to the light coming from above. "I bet you that hole takes us to the surface. We have the diamond, so we have no other business here." "Very funny," Warion says. "How are we going to get up there, huh? Have you thought about that?" "I'm sure we will find a solution for it," Visis answers, "because I am not going back into the cave with those eyeless shadow creatures. It would be suicide." "Maybe not with your fighting skills," Britko says. "I appreciate the compliment, but I would rather avoid them." Visis, Britko, and Warion are looking around for anything to help them climb up the hole in the ceiling. Lucinia is still unconscious, and the solutions seem to be out of range. But not for long. Suddenly a rope falls down, still hanging in the air and leading up to the surface. The 3 of them look up, amazed by this unexpected turn, and wait until the origin of the rope is revealed. A head pops up, barely visible from that far, and against the light, and a familiar face is seen from below. "Guys, get the rope and climb up as fast as you can," Ryder says. Ryder, where did you come from? Visas asks. It's a long story, but let me just say that your two archers are safe at the inn. And I was able to return quickly. I expect to be paid for overtime. Sounds fair? Ha ha! It's all good, Ryder, Britko says. Why are you in such a hurry? Stop talking and climb up already, Ryder yells. Get up here now. Okay, Britko says. He begins to climb, and the others wait in line. In the meantime, Licinia wakes up. What's going on here? She asks. Ryder just came and helped us up, Visas says. But before he can say another word, they hear a scream and a growl. Ryder? Visas yells. Arrgh! Ryder! Visas looks worried. He's not sure what just happened up there, but he wants to climb the rope as fast as he can to find out. Hurry, Britko. We don't have all day, he commands. I'm getting there, Britko shouts back. As soon as he reaches the surface, it's Visas' turn. As he ascends, he listens to Britko's exclamation. Oh no! Visas hears from above. Something is wrong, he says. A tad faster than the previous heavy elf, Visas raises his body to the top and discovers the reason for Britko's sorrow. There is blood in the snow. It's everywhere, and it forms a trail to a distant location. It looks like there has been a struggle, which Visas concludes after detecting the patterns in the snow and the random spreading of the blood. In some parts the snow is completely gone, uncovering the rough rocks of the mountain. The crimson blood trail and thick hairs are what creates... The crimson blood trail and thick hairs are what creates an instant fear in Visas' mind about the well-being of their faithful guide. Let's go after it, he says, drawing his sword and running into the direction he thinks he should go. Wait up, Britko says, after making sure the rope is still tied up to a rock. He pulls on it, tightens it even further, and then follows Visas, tracking the blood trail all the way to the top of another mountain. Whoa, he says with a dry attitude, trying to hide his emotions. Visas is standing about 20 feet away from him. He's staring at the gruesome display of ripped body parts scattered across a small perimeter, stained with the blood and body fluids of his deceased acquaintance. The victim's head is ripped from his torso, and several limbs are lying around in a muddled, messy way, clearly depicting the brutal tearing apart of the wolf's prey, who probably struggled for his life, but was unable to save it and fend off his assailants. The wolves are gone. The scene is deserted. It looks like the wolves didn't even take the time to consume every last bit of the raw flesh they were craving. The horrendous suddenness of the tragedy causes Visas and Britko to refrain from speaking and stare for minutes, just attempting to grasp the sickening irony of the fact that the person who just rescued them from the ice cave has now instantaneously fallen. Come, Britko says. There's nothing we can do here. Nothing else needs to be said. They both know it, and they both lament their recent powerlessness to prevent the guide's death. Britko and Visas walk back and greet Warrior and Licinia, who have climbed up, and look at them with questioning faces. Britko shakes his head, and the two of them immediately understand what it means. Britko shakes his head, and two of them immediately understand what it means. Let's go back to the inn, Warrior says. Yes, but keep your weapons ready, Visas says. These wolves may still be around. With that being said, the group heads back, fearing the worst and thinking of the possibility of becoming the next victims. They are more alert and anxious than before, though, still hopeful and positive about reaching their aspired destination. At least you saved yourself some money, Warrior says after a while. Don't even mention it, Visas says. He did not deserve to die. We lost a good friend. I agree with you there, Warrior admits. Sorry. Sometimes I speak before I evaluate my thoughts. No kidding, Britko says. You're not always fun to be around, little one. Warrior is silent. He feels humbled and grateful that he made it out of the cave. His bag contains the diamond they sought after. It's not as heavy as he thought it would be, and the hike back is a pleasant change from the freezing cave and the dangers that came with it.
What's on your mind, Visas? He asks.
Just stuff,
Visas says. Come on. You just witnessed something terrible. We have the diamond and we escaped from the cave. Good and bad things are happening. But what is it you're thinking about? You look like you're in your own world or something.
I was just thinking about Solana. I wonder how she is holding up. 2. Atrocity City. What? Where am I? She asks as she wakes up with a jolt. Her eyes don't need to adjust to the light, for there isn't much of it anyway. The obscure surroundings contrast against her white top and a glimmer in the distance, which is probably a torch, she assumes. She breathes in the oxygen that is left in the somewhat toxic air she smells, thinking it may kill her. Looking to the left, Solana begins to remember what happened to her, and that this is not all just some big nightmare. It's real. It's very real, even though she doesn't want it to be. She's alone. There is no one else in this dungeon of despair. They left her here with a cup and a plate. Drink, she says hastily as she crawls to the other side of her cell and pours the liquid into her mouth. Yuck. Ugh. She says. Disgusting. She swallows it anyway, because getting dehydrated is the last way she wants to die. Then she glances at the petty meal they sloppily slapped onto the plate, a murky mush that seems to have at least some nutritional value. Sylvana keeps her nose closed with 2 fingers and uses her hand to gobble up the slush as quickly as she can. Chew a little, swallow, she thinks. Don't think about it. Gone. After letting go of her nose, she takes a deep breath and curses the nasty stuff she just allowed to enter into her system. And even though none of these things satisfy her appetites in the least, they do satisfy her stomach. A sense of renewed energy is coming to her. She feels better and somewhat relieved, despite her terrible night's rest. Now that she is ready to do things, she takes a better look at herself. She is dirty, and her clothes are slightly ragged. It dawns on her that she would give anything to just take a healthy, clean bath. Her long, beautiful hair feels like it hasn't been taken care of in weeks. She glances at the other cells adjacent to hers. Some rotting bones and filthy utensils are lying there, and besides that, rats are scurrying around in each corner, revealing the lie about her aloneness, yet adding nervousness to her emotions, since she hopes these rodents don't carry any contagious maladies or infections. If I would have known about the rats, I don't know if I would have eaten that meal, she says, frustrated over the fact that she made a rash decision. She keeps talking to soothe herself and gain a sense of empathy from her inner conscience. Let's analyze this, she says. Let me come to my senses and stay calm. I am imprisoned in the Orc Leader's dungeon. We had a lovely discussion in his hideous throne room, and he is going to use me to eternalize the curse of the Sword of Adamus by sacrificing my life. Okay, so to prevent these filthy orcs from taking over our entire planet, I can either do 2 things. Flee or die. Yes, it's all making sense now. Well, I prefer not to die, and I'm certain that Visas is doing everything he can to save me. Oh, Visas, where are you? I wish I could just see you, just for a moment, and that you could tell me everything is going to be okay. Come on, Solana. Keep yourself together, girl. You can do this. All you have to do is get out of here. It's not like it will be easy, but hey, where there's a will, there's a way. All the thinking out loud helps her align her thoughts. Her confusion and panic are being suppressed by a reasonable intellect that gives her a clear overview of the pernicious circumstances that could damage her health and ensure her misery over the next period of time. Stating the obvious, she completes her self-addressed speech and begins to look for solutions. It looks like the door is over there, she says. It's the only way out. So first I have to escape from my cell, which is through these bars, and then, well, let's focus on this first. Isn't there a key or something? Or maybe a stick with which I can pick the lock. Let's see.
Solana looks around and searches on the floor for anything to give her a sparkle of hope. Her creativity takes over, and the many escape plans she has gone over in the past, when she fantasized about being caged or trapped and having to escape, are racing through her brain.
No,
she says when she looks at a grain of sand that looks slightly bigger.
Not that either,
she says in frustration as she picks up the cup and the plate.
Why didn't they just give me a fork? Perhaps they knew I would try to pick the lock.
This makes her realize how dirty her hands are, and she rubs them on the bars. When she does, her eyes open wider and a glimpse of cleverness hits her.
These bars are pretty far apart, she says. I can hardly believe it. Wow.
She sticks her arm through the bars and measures the distance between the pieces of metal. Then she puts one of her legs through.
This might actually work.
She covers her mouth after she laughs, trying to hold back on her enthusiasm. Then she moves towards the bars, sideways, in a manner that narrows down her width.
Easy,
she tells herself.
Easy. Okay, that part is through. No. I'm stuck. What the... What? Why are my breasts so big? They're stuck. If I were a boy, it would have been a lot easier. They have no idea how hard... Whatever. This is so annoying. Okay, let's see. I just have to squeeze my hip through the bar a little like that, and then it should be easier.
Lifting up her arms and awkwardly wobbling sideways, she keeps trying for a few minutes and manages to wiggle most of her body through the bars of her cell.
Almost there. Yes, I'm there. I made it.
On the outside, she is dead silent, but on the inside, she feels like jumping for joy and shouting it from the rooftops. Still, she realizes that this is only the beginning.
Incredible, she says. They didn't even double-check if the bars could hold me. I'm too thin. But now, let's just hope they aren't right there standing guard by the door or something.
Alertness is everything in her case. She refuses to give up, but fears that she will mess up. Her only way out through the door is the next important step in her plan to escape. She tiptoes to the door and slowly opens it. The fact that it doesn't creak is a relief, but the stairs are inauspicious, creating a setting of unpredictability. She wavers. She hesitates. Doubts are creeping into her mind. There could be anything at the top of these stairs. Then she closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and says,
"It's now or never."
The silence and steadiness in her stride are worthy of praise, and in her mind, she compliments herself for being so sneaky. When she reaches the last stair, however, she discovers that nobody is there.
This must be a neglected part of the palace,
she says, but the emptiness doesn't calm her down, because noises are emerging from the distance. It sounds like chatting, laughter, screams, and yelling at the same time.
Something strange is going on there,
she assumes. The dark, black hallway she is in limits her options. It is a tight space with only one exit, which causes her to sigh and hope again that there won't be anyone there. She walks towards the light at the end and turns around a corner. Seeing it from a distance now, she begins to understand where the noise is coming from. It looks like some kind of crowd, which will become more visible as she moves towards it. Since there is no other way to go, she keeps walking. When she reaches the end of the hallway, she finds herself in an open area, covered by a roof and held up by pillars. The narrow opening of the hallway ends up in some kind of front court, which seems to be the welcoming entrance before going inside the palace. Figuring she doesn't have much time to take it all in, the things that are happening, she hides behind a few crates as fast as she can. Just in time. A few orc guards walk by and walk down the stairs in front of the palace. The crates and pillars should be sufficient to keep her safe, she thinks. Perhaps later, when she wants to leave, it could be necessary to find additional attire to disguise herself. Solana is shivering, not because she is cold, but because she is afraid. The situation is tense.
Right below her are hundreds of orcs doing who knows what, and here she is, a vulnerable, conspicuous elf amongst the barbaric citizens of this orc city. Okay, she silently whispers. I got here so far. This is a sign, right? I just have to remain calm. Maybe I can just stay here until it gets dark. No, they will be looking for me before that. I need to leave. Get away from here as far as possible. All of a sudden, a scream from the crowd captures her attention. When she finally musters the courage to look at what is happening, she is shocked. In front of her eyes are the most gruesome, despicable scenes she has ever perceived in her life. The marketplace in front of the palace is full of life and death. A horrible contrast these barbaric monsters obviously don't care about. Bloodshed, rage, and slaughter take place among the populace, devoid of much organization or structure. On her right, Solana witnesses slaves being viciously carried away by chains around their necks. Their slave driver yanks at the chain with his gigantic hands to keep them in line, and other orcs are using their whips to cause the unnecessary pain when they attack their inferiors. The kobold-looking, smaller orcs scream in agony as another whiplash hits their backs. One of the 10 slaves is already dead, but still hooked up to the sturdy chain, with its neck stuck and its body being dragged between the others. Solana looks the other way and sees another malicious act. A cage with 3 fighters, filled with blood and a stack of corpses. The previous fallen contestants are still in there, just not alive. The living warriors step on their broken skulls and splattered intestines to prevent themselves from becoming the next dead bodies on the pile. Blood is dripping from all sides of the cage, and betting orcs are standing around the morbid match to possibly gain a few golden coins by trying their luck. As she counts the bodies in the pile, Solana quickly concludes there must be dozens on the cage ground that were recently massacred by their opponents. And if this isn't enough, the agonizing echoes from female orcs tear the air with their bitter suffering. Solana glances at the sound's direction and understands what is happening when she watches a female orc being beaten and dragged away on an orc's shoulder. Behind him, orcs are exchanging money and bargaining, while their females are being spat on and kicked as they lie on the ground and cover their faces to avoid further pain being inflicted on them. Solana's disgust is immeasurable when she realizes how indecent this race treats those who are weak or considered less important, including the other gender of their own kind. She looks up and almost pukes from the nausea creeping up on her. The same sickening revulsion continues when she sees something she didn't notice before. The body parts and heads dangling on the ceiling above her. She instantly remembers seeing such appalling displays in the throne room, but it seems that they have taken it to the next level here. Hundreds of dead orcs are hanging on the ceiling, soaked in dried blood and torn asunder. They represent the stern authority of the ones in charge in this uncivil city. They are examples of the consequences of insubordination and disrespect. Eyes are cut out, limbs are chopped off, and some corpses are hanging upside down, showing the repulsive details of their insides and spines through the openings in their necks. She covers her mouth and tries to hold back her vomit, realizing that the flies she has been swatting away since she has been hiding between the crates are mostly circling above her to feast on the flesh of the murdered monsters. As Solana looks to the right, another dooming threat portrays what this so-called society is made of. Unfortunate individuals are being experimented with by shamans who are exercising some kind of magical powers by shooting lightning bolts into kneeling victims. The black sorcery in this town becomes evident when one such individual begins to shake and reaches the point of explosion into 1,000 pieces. Its head and body are splattered across the direct perimeter, with orc guards watching the scene with satisfaction, cheering and applauding as a small orc comes and tries to sweep up the pieces from the corpse. Solana hides behind the crates again, shocked and dazzled, overwhelmed and repelled by the intensity with which these savages interact on a daily basis. Wheels begin to spin in her head, and fear rushes through her body as she comprehends the kinds of beings her own race is up against. Since these orcs can do that to each other, she cannot even begin to imagine what they will do to the elves in the city, or across all of Terra. They must die, is her simple conclusion. These orcs are not worthy of living, but one thing is clear. They can die, which makes me wonder if that entire story about the Sword of Adamus was just made up to scare me. After she calms herself, she repeats, Yes, it must be made up. I can kill these guys. 3. Failure. Solana is contemplating her escape. The marketplace is full of dealers, wizards, vendors, slave owners, brutal monsters, and many other dangerous orcs she would rather stay away from. And although she doubts her solution is going to be effective, when she looks up, she figures she just might have an idea. If I could just get that cloak, she thinks. Above her, not too far away from her hiding place, one of the hundreds of corpses on a thread, softly banging against a pillar because of the wind, is wearing a mantle. The black cloak is wrapped around the body as if the orc refused to hand it over. Despite the bloodstains on the piece of clothing, Solana sees an opportunity. The pillars look somewhat slippery, but she hopes, against all odds, that she will be able to remain unnoticed and climb up to steal the cloak from its dead owner and put it on herself. There is no other way, she says. They will be looking for me. Let's just hope nobody will look this way. There must be 1,000 orcs in the square, but they are all focused on the fights, their slaves, or the merchandise. This is my chance. Without hesitation, she sneaks to the pillar, which conveniently is the closest one to her, and hides behind it with her back against the inside of it. She sighs as she concludes that this ensures her invisibility. I must stay on this side of the pillar, she thinks. Then she begins to climb. It's not as slippery as it looked from further away, and somehow she finds the strength to get her up there, about 20 feet above the ground. She holds on with one hand and reaches for the cloak. Almost there. Almost. Got it. As quickly as she can, she slides down the pillar with the cape in her hand. The hoodie is a little big for her head, and the cloak drags over the floor as the orc wearing it was a lot taller than the secretive she-elf. But it does the trick, and it covers her identity for now. With her new disguise, she steps down the stairs in front of the palace and mingles with the masses. Solana attempts to avoid any eye contact, hiding her face underneath her hoodie and moving forward at a slow pace to carefully plan out her route. She finds herself being caught up in the crowd surrounding the cage fight, with rowdy, cheering orcs yelling and elbowing each other. "Kill him!" she hears. "Chop him in half," another orc shouts. "Come on, I didn't bet on you for nothing. Get out there and spill his blood already." It's a muddled mess, a manifested mayhem she cannot escape. She has to keep going. If she could only reach the other side of the city square, she would be away from the throng, empowered to evade the madness she faces in this city and the horrible possibility of getting caught. "Whoa!" she says, as an orc almost elbows her in the face. As soon as the word escapes her lips, she realizes that she blew her cover. Lucky for her, the orcs are too into it to notice a common figure zigzagging through, and are paying enough attention to the battle in front of them. "Oh!" the crowd utters as an orc's head is cut off with an axe. The blood splashes through the cage and some of it ends up in Solana's face, whose hoodie isn't big enough to protect her from the sudden scare. Clumsily, she steps on the mantle she is wearing and trips. She falls on the ground and scrapes her knee, slightly revealing the true nature of her race. Hopeful that nobody saw her skin uncovered, she stands up fast and increases her pace. But somebody did notice. Above the noise, above the hustle and bustle of the confusing anarchy, a voice yells at her from a little distance. "Oi, you!" An orc pushes a fellow citizen away and walks straight towards her. She turns around and begins to run in the other direction. "You! Come back here!" the orc shouts. This time he attracts others to observe what is happening. "What's wrong?" another orc asks. "I think I saw an elf there. See? That's her, the person with the cape. Get over here!" Solana runs faster. The speed forces her hoodie to blow off and causes her long hair to flap in the wind. By now, dozens of orcs have seen through her failed attempt at being incognito. Busted. She's a goner, and she knows it. Her heart beats faster and she breathes heavily because of running and fear. Several orcs are following her, yelling and waving their weapons in the air as they threaten to kill her if she doesn't surrender. She ignores them and keeps running. When she reaches a nearby street, she turns around the corner and... "Wah!" she exclaims as she falls down into an open sewer she didn't see. Splash! Holding her breath, she comes to her senses within seconds as she realizes she is underwater. Gasping for air, she manages to reach the surface, after which she learns that it is shallow enough to stand in. To her horror, she discovers that the water is mostly blood, and that her entire attire is now covered in a sticky, viscid mix of the life fluids of deceased orcs and filth from the sewers. She holds her nose with 2 fingers and almost loses her balance when stepping on a ribcage, lying between scattered bones, decaying corpses, and broken limbs. The flies are even more abundant in this sordid, wretched spot beneath the city, where they clearly, sloppily have been dumping the leftovers of tragic fatalities who were victimized by the lawlessness and permissiveness of this cruel society. "There she is!" she suddenly hears from above. Struggling to walk away, she takes big steps to avoid being seen, and dives underneath the surface of blood and excrement she detests so much. Splash! An armored orc with an axe jumps into the pile of dead bodies, dung, and bony leftovers. "She must be around here somewhere," he says, as he starts walking through the mush. Splash! Another orc follows. "Awful smell," he commends. "Why did she have to hide in here? Let's get this over with." "I can do this," Solana thinks. "Just a minute and they will be gone. Perhaps I can take a breath without making too much sound. Yes, that's what I'll do." The orcs are still searching, patiently exploring the stomach-turning sewer. Solana still holds her nose and has her mouth closed. But time is running out. She has to breathe. Oxygen is slowly being consumed by her lungs. And as she reaches the surface and breathes in, the dingy stench of the mixed substances overwhelms her. She vomits into the bloody blend, loud enough for her pursuers to hear her and spot her presence. "I knew it," an orc with a broadsword exclaims. "We got you, girlie. Don't try to run anymore." Solana gives up. There is nothing left to do. She coughs up some more blood and slurry mucus before they grab her and carry her up the ladder to the city streets. "Look who was hiding in the worst place possible," the orc with the axe says. "This little pest tried to escape. What shall we do with her?" "Cut her in half," one of the orcs says. "Pluck her eyes out," another says. "She must suffer," a bystander adds. "Those are all great ideas, but I was actually going to see if I could earn a commission by handing her over to our great leader." Defeated, distraught, and even more traumatized than before, Solana doesn't struggle when the orcs carry her to the palace. She is thrown in the towel. Her one chance of finding security has been futile, and it hits her hard. Back at the palace, she is thrown onto the floor of the same throne room where she was brought before Gorak the first time. There he is, sitting on his throne, with his thorny bracelets hanging on his wrists, his teeth sticking out, in the same demonic demeanor as the first time she met this ruthless ruler. Gorak stands up and claps. Then he walks forward and approaches the kneeling she-elf. "Well done," he says. "Well done. You almost got away with it too. I must admit that I am impressed. Perhaps you elves are capable of something after all. But at the same time, I must disappoint you, Solana. That is your name, isn't it? I'd almost forgot. Who cares, anyway? Listen carefully. Very Carefully. The orc leader gets closer and yells in her ear. You will never leave this place again. Ever. Do you understand me?
Solana looks up and says, after spitting some blood on the palace floor, Perhaps not, but you can count on one thing. At least I will die trying. I am not through with you. Trust me.
Ha 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 ha. Gorik laughs. What an attitude. Unbelievable. I must give it to you again. You got some spirit. But that will only get you so far. Boys, get her out of here. And this time, make sure she stays in her cell. Yes, boss.
The two giant orcs that brought her in grab her arms and take her down, back to the dungeons underneath the palace. After several minutes, Solana notices the sentry who mocked her earlier.
She's back, the one-eyed monstrosity says. I told you she would be. Did you have some bad luck, Missy?
Not as much as you will when my boyfriend is done with you, Solana says.
A boyfriend? Such a poor guy, he says, drooling on each side of his mouth. Perhaps he will witness your death someday. That would be nice.
He pulls her hair and tugs her head to the side. His yellow teeth and foul breath are in her face as he warns her to never make another attempt to escape. She tries to hold her breath to avoid inhaling his body odor, but then again, it doesn't exceed the stench from her own clothes after her attempted escape, which ended up in the city sewers.
There will be no next time,
the filthy guard assures her.
The next time will be when we come to get you to be decapitated. And you know, I will be watching.
Then you'll see for the first time what it's like to die with honor. Something you don't have.
It's hilarious that you're still fighting,
the sentry answers.
But useless.
Then he kicks her into a different cell, one with more bars and a lower ceiling. She crawls into a corner, still shaking and in shock, even after verbally standing up for herself. The intensity of the horrific images in her mind begin to sink in. The cell she is in is lower, causing a claustrophobic creepiness to fill the air. The ceiling is only 4 feet high, and the obscurity excels that of the previous cell, where they locked her up. It's pitch black, and she doesn't see a way out. But then again, she doesn't want to try it anymore. She has failed. Again. Four. The mines. A blizzard. A freezing temperature. 4 warriors descending down the mountain, hoping to find their way to some shelter. It's a situation Visas has become familiar with. The butchery of their guide by the local wildlife proves again that this dangerous journey can turn into death and disaster, and that they should never stay in their comfort zone. They are close. A light is shimmering in the distance. Britko points at it. Licinia loosens up a cloth she previously put around her neck, anticipating the safe return to the inn. Only 1 more hour, Visas says, estimating the distance. That's what I think. About that much time later, they arrive at the inn. It's covered in snow, but at least it is a place where they can warm up. The wind is blowing in their faces, and with some resistance from the natural elements, Britko opens the door. When they go inside, everyone stares at them, just like the first time they came in. But this time, their entrance is quite more impressive. Nobody says a thing, and even the obnoxious, suspicious elf who greeted them on their previous visit stays seated, sipping from his beer and looking up occasionally. They returned, which is rare. And even though Ryder is not with them, they still sense the shock in the room and the respect they have for their accomplishment.
Visas keeps his mouth shut. He steps forward and signals Warrior to stand next to him. Behind him, Britko closes the door and Licinia glances at the crowd. Then Visas reaches into Warrior's backpack and takes out the shiny diamond. He puts it on the table and looks at their reaction. They are even more amazed than before. Mouths fall open, pupils widen, and some hold their breath. "Is that?" one of the elves in the inn asks. Visas nods. Notwithstanding their awe, the group doesn't have time to impress the locals. Two elves in the back of the room catch their attention. When they see them, they immediately walk over to them. "How is it?" Visas asks.
"It's okay," Marvar says. "Not good enough to go along with you, but I will recover. Frostbite is something that shouldn't be neglected, but they are taking care of me here."
"We survived," Narpa says. "By the way, where is Ryder?"
"He is dead," Warrior answers bluntly.
"Oh." None of them know where to look. They perceive the disappointment on the archers' faces, and they stay quiet for circa 10 seconds, as if they are honoring their deceased guide this way. "How?" Marvar wants to know. "Wolves," Britko says. "Oh." A few more seconds of silence follow. Then Visas says, "We all feel bad. We have to move on. Should we look at our next waypoint?" "Yes, let's do that," Britko agrees. Visas takes the map he received from Melthor out of his pocket and spreads it on the table. "We are here. The next diamond should be somewhere in this location," he says, pointing at different areas on the map. "These are the hills where we can find the tombs of Conruk."
"The what now?" Warrior asks.
"The tombs of Conruk. According to the notes here on the bottom, which are in terrible handwriting, I must say, these tombs are a sacred resting place to those who have lived before us in several towns across Terra. I've heard strange things about these tombs. I don't trust them, so perhaps we can find some help along the way." "What are you suggesting, Visas?" Britko wants to know. "Well, Crystal City refused to help us, and the Dark Elves from the forest seem reluctant as well. But have we tried to contact the dwarves in the Pro-Sewer mines yet?" "The mines?" Licinia asks. "I wouldn't go there if they paid me." "And what if they could help us succeed?" Visas asks. "Do you understand the seriousness of the situation?" "What have you got against them anyway?" Britko asks. "They're quite pleasant in my eyes." "Pleasant? All they do is work, drink beer, and make loud remarks. They're uncivilized and rude. Have you ever come into contact with them?" "What's wrong with all that?" Britko asks. "That's how I spend my time. Well, most of it, when I can." "Look," Visas says, "you're not asking you to join their race or to become their best friend. All I'm saying is that they can prove useful in our quest. If they can help us overcome these obstacles we face, then why not? It's just a little detour, but they could make the difference between us dying or surviving." Licinia thinks for a moment. "Fine," she says, finally. "But don't expect me to interact with those barbaric scums." "We can do all the talking," Visas says. "I'm sure they will talk to us differently, since we're males." "True." After some more planning, the four warriors say goodbye to Marvar and Narpa, who wish them luck on the rest of their journey. Visas goes to bed. He is extremely fatigued. The day was long and the weather was harsh, let alone the fact that they faced some serious dangers and their guide was eaten alive by wolves. It's all so much to take in. He falls on the bed in his room and buries his head in his pillow. The tough act he has been putting up is replaced by the softness in his soul and the quiet rest he has been seeking for days now. It looks like the others are already looking up to him as their leader, and it is a burden that just adds to all the other ones. He can't help but think of his beloved other half, the female friend his heart belongs to. He comforts himself with the thought that the time is not nigh, and that the orcs have a reason for keeping her alive. Then he falls asleep. He sees her again. It is as if most of his dreams have included her presence lately. Still, in this vague realm between two worlds, the sanity remains with him, sending him the message that he is asleep, and that this is not real. A romantic beach. A sunset. His dream takes him there. She is wearing the same outfit as always. Her red skirt and white top are a stunning addition to her brown hair, waving in the wind, and her sharp, brown eyes. Visas is in his usual attire as well, although he doesn't feel he can live up to her beauty. Solana smiles at him and holds his hand. Words aren't exchanged. It's like a moment to be savored without spoiling it by small talk. The breeze is in their faces, causing them to squint their eyes every once in a while. Their feet move through the soft sand, and the temperature is perfect. It feels like an eternity. The image remains in his mind. It's the ultimate dream of a young elf in love. Her figure and her glamorous face are touched by the light of the red and orange sky behind her, adding a yellowish, silver lining to the shapes of her body. Suddenly, she stops and turns around. She breathes in and closes her eyes. Visas knows exactly what she longs for. Her mouth slightly opens up and her lips come closer. Visas is nervous and delighted at the same time. He steps forward and puts one arm on her back, gently pulling her close. Then he closes his eyes as well and leans over. His lips approach hers. Bang, bang, bang. Huh? What's that? He says, waking up with a jolt. Let's go, Visas. You said you wanted to get up early. Britko says on the other side of the door. Reality is beginning to sink in. Visas gets up and puts on some clothes. Okay, he says. You couldn't have timed it worse. He opens up the door and sees the other three standing in the hallway, ready to leave the inn and head towards the pro-sewer mines. Visas rubs his eyes and takes his sword and knapsack. The others innocently look at him, unaware of the reason for his grouchy mood. Let's go then, Visas says. They pay the innkeeper and look around for Marvar and Narpa. They're still sleeping, and Visas figures this is either the last time they saw them, or perhaps they will somehow survive this entire ordeal and see them back at the end. The journey isn't long, and it's unimpressive. The four warriors pass through several green hills, just like the ones they have seen before, and end up in front of a slightly taller mountain with a giant entrance. The entrance solely consists of an opening and some symbols on the wall, signifying the border of a new society. Guards are standing in front of it. Dwarves with weapons and beards, suspicious of the new ones entering their premises. Now this is interesting, Britko says, looking at the big opening to what seems to be a mine. Hold it right there, one of the two dwarf guards says as he approaches the four elves. Why are you here? Where are you from? We are from the west, Visas says. We are seeking your leader to converse with him. Very well, he says. I will ask him if he'll see you. Thank you. The other guard moves forward and stands a little closer, making sure the group doesn't go anywhere. After a half hour, the dwarf returns and says, Our leader, Garen, will now see you. It's about time, Warrian mumbles. They follow the dwarf into the mine and observe the many miners who are doing their jobs. There are hundreds of them, all chipping away at the walls, cutting into the ceilings, and digging tunnels in the bottom. It's like an underground city. As they descend deeper into the mines, they can hardly fathom the magnificence of this place. The diamonds are everywhere. Crystallized walls have been made by these dwarves on all sides of the mine. Little houses have been constructed on different levels, in layers in the depth of their home that goes way down into Terra's ground and gets colder by the minute. Dwarf families come out of their houses to curiously check out the elven warriors who invaded their space. How many dwarves live here? Visis asks.
Probably more than 10,000, the guard answers. I don't know. We lost count a long time ago. And you never bothered to do a census?
Britko asks.
Nope, we don't care. Come, let me guide you through our humble shelter.
The dwarf takes the elves through the bottom streets of the mine. The street has houses on each side, and dozens of dwarves walk past them, looking up to the new visitors and going about their business. Little marketplaces and booths are all over the place, as well as the little children who are running around, and mothers chatting away.
Not so uncivilized, is it?
Visis says to Licinia. Really? Why don't you look at what some of the men are doing? She asks, pointing to a little group of dwarves in the corner, who are sitting at a table while talking loudly, burping, and drinking beer.
Oh, they're just having fun,
Britko says. Licinia rolls her eyes. Brutes. That's what they are, she says. Men who drink too much often do not control themselves. Warrian looks at her, trying to understand what she's referring to, although partially seeing her point by making assumptions. The simple houses they pass on the way to a slightly bigger home have an almost cute appearance, with their modest, unpretentious facades, painted in blues and whites. The leader is sitting on a little stairway leading to his front door. He has a fairly short beard, a helmet, and keen eyes. His legs are wide apart, and with his forearm, he leans on his axe, which he softly presses upside down against the step below him. "Greetings, strange travellers," he says. "It has been a long time since I've seen the elves down here. Usually, your people think they're too high and mighty for the likes of us. To what do I owe the privilege of your visit?" "We are looking for 5 magical diamonds," Visis says. "We found the first one, and we would like your help with finding the others." "Magical diamonds, huh? The ones that break the spell of the sword of Adamus. Are we talking about the same diamonds here?" "Yes. How did you know about that?" Visis asks. "We all know about it," Garen says. "The only difference between you, elves, and us, dwarves, is that we don't bother to do anything with it. We are too busy with our work. That, and having fun." "But how can you not care about that?" Visis asks. "Don't you know that those orcs will have the endless power to destroy every individual on Terra? That includes you." "No, it doesn't. We'll just shut the entrance. They'll never find out about us. You elves always live in trees and villages and cities above the ground. But have you ever thought of moving to a place that lies deep beneath the soil? It's one of the safest spots to hide from your enemies." "Come on," Visis says. "You cannot believe that. Do you really think that they will skip you? If the orcs succeed, eventually, they will sweep through your little stronghold within an hour. There will be nothing left. And they will burn your homes to the ground." Garen raises one eyebrow. "Why do you suppose all this, young elf? What are those assumptions based on?" "Because it happened to us," Visis says. Garen is quiet. He looks at the 4 elves who are towering over him, and he sees it. Behind their grotesque appearance and pugnacity, a sense of loss and grief is hiding. He sees it in their eyes, and within an instant, he comprehends the reason of their inquiry. They are desperate, searching for anyone to assist them in their quest. Desire is to prevent another tragedy at all costs, even though they have lost everything already. "I see," Garen says, rubbing his beard. He gets up and picks up his axe. "Very well," he says. "I will gather a few men and instruct them to accompany you." "Thank you," Visis says. "That's all we wanted." "I have one condition, though," Garen says. "And what's that?" "I want to see the first diamond you've obtained. I've always been curious to see it. Do you have it with you?" "We sure do," Warrian says. He reaches into his bag and pulls out the shiny diamond. "Splendid," Garen says. "Truly one of a kind.
If only we had diamonds like that in these mines. Go ahead, and have some fun with the other dwarves. I will gather some courageous warriors, and they will come with you. Visus, Warian, and Licinia sit at a table on the side of the street, watching the rustle and bustle of the crowd. In the meantime, Britko goes to the male dwarves who are partying, joining them in their loud conversations and silly jokes. The three more serious elves don't say much. They simply watch random dwarves talk to each other, discipline their offspring, and trade certain items, gear, hammers, and pickaxes. "Come on," Britko says after some time, walking over to their table. "If you're not thirsty, you must at least be a little hungry."
"I guess it would be a good idea to eat,"
Visus says, after which they follow Britko to the food corner. Several meats and breads are served, along with cheese and strong drinks. Visus, however, only drinks water, making sure he stays alert and healthy, despite the almost convincing words of the dwarves around him. Within an hour or so, Garen shows up. "I got them," he says, referring to the 50 dwarves who were slowly arriving behind him. "These men are willing to risk their lives for the common good. It's okay. No need to worry about their families. They are not married anyway." Visus and the others are not certain whether they should laugh about this fact too, but they chuckle a bit, out of politeness. The 50 dwarves are armed with breastplates, axes, clubs, helmets, spears, and shields. They look ready and bored at the same time. "Are we leaving or what?" one of them asks impatiently. "If we're just going to stand around, I might just kill myself," another says.
"Enough talk,"
Visus says.
"We are ready. Let's go."
The whole army walks up the hundreds of stairs to the top of the mine, heading towards the light. Once they are outside, Visus checks the map one more time and guides them to the tombs of Konruk. On the way there, during their long hike into the distant hills, one of the dwarves starts a conversation with the elves. "So, elves, is it true that your entire village got destroyed?" "Yes," Britko says, "but it wasn't a good place anyway." "What do you mean?" the dwarf asks. "Just that it was corrupted." Visus joins the dialogue as well.
"Which makes me think, Britko, you've mentioned it before, but what exactly happened to you in that village?"
"I will tell you because I think you wouldn't shut up about it anyway," Britko answers. "But life was a living hell. Well, not initially, but eventually."
"So tell us what happened,"
Visus insists.
"Okay,
but I have to warn you. It's not going to be pretty."
5. The Bribe. Life is simple for the gigantic barbarian. He chops wood and sells it. That's what he does for a living, and although the market fluctuates, there is always an individual or a family that needs some wood for the fireplace, or for cooking, especially in the winter. But now it's summer. Business is tough. Britko saves up his money and piles up wood to make a big sale when the sunny days are over. He occasionally sells the odd item to a friendly neighbor, but he knows that this is the season to work hard and make little money. Fortunately, the forests are close and full of potential lumber. Wrensville is in a practical location and allows anyone to indulge oneself in all the free resources in the environment and set up multiple businesses if necessary. "Good morning," a blonde she-elf in the village says with a smile.
"Have we met?"
Britko asks. "Not yet. My name is Alea. What's yours?"
"Britko," the big lumberjack says.
"Nice to meet you, Britko. Where are you going, if you don't mind me asking?"
"Just up on the hill on the north side. I try to gather as much wood as I can so I can be more profitable in the winter. Demand will be high in the cold season, so I better prepare myself. Right?"
"Interesting. Do you go there every day?"
"Pretty much. I've found a sweet spot. The trees there are sufficient to provide me work for the rest of the summer."
"Nice," Alea says. "Well, goodbye for now, and good luck."
"Thank you. And good day to you too,
Madam.
Please just call me Alea.
But before he can go, another elf approaches him. A male, this time.
Britko, how was it yesterday?
Do you mean for work? Britko asks, watching Alea disappear from the corner of his eyes.
Yes, of course. Did you deliver that lumber to the priest yesterday?
Oh, I forgot, Darren, Britko says. I never liked him anyway, but hey, a job is a job. I will do it tonight.
Sounds good. Take care, buddy,
Darren says. See you later, man. Britko takes his axe up the hill, and as soon as he reaches the woods, he begins to chop a tree trunk. He works his muscles and swings his arms, feeling the adrenaline and the strength flow through his body. He loves it, and he knows that this is the kind of profession he could do forever. Granted, it's not always fun. But then again, he despises laziness and wants to keep his muscular shape. At the end of the day, he piles up the pieces of wood he split and looks at it with a satisfied expression on his face. Time to go home and deliver some of those logs to the priest, he says. He descends from the hill to his home, carrying some of the logs in his arms, and heads to the priest's house. Incredible, he mumbles as he observes the magnitude of the mansion the holy preacher lives in. Maybe I should deliver sermons for a living. Anyway, he knocks on the priest's door, and a young man opens up.
Yes,
the young man says. I have logs for Father Lurius, Britko says.
Oh, let me get him,
the young man answers. A minute later, the priest comes outside and greets Britko. You can put them around the corner of that barn, he says. By the way, I haven't seen you in our congregation lately. We have a need for spiritually oriented elves like you. Would you care to join us next week? Ha ha! You're talking to the wrong guy, Father Lurius. I don't believe in all that stuff. Just let me figure out the purpose of life by myself. Anyway, thanks for the purchase. Let me know when you need new wood again. I will. But remember my words. There is a filth amongst us, and that filth is sin. You cannot ignore the pestering disease in this village caused by the complacency of the decadent. I urge you again to join the congregation and pledge allegiances to our rights and covenants. I understand, Britko says, and I respect your beliefs, but it's not for me. Have a nice evening. With those words, he walks away and counts his money. The day is over. The hour is late, and Britko doesn't hesitate when he gets home. Food and sleep are all he needs. On to the next day. When he wakes up, Britko discovers a secret hope in himself to bump into the same young lady from the day before. He remembers what she looks like, but he doesn't know anything about her. Either way, he was charmed by her presence and her assertiveness to greet him. Perhaps it means something, perhaps not. For now, he can only hope. He has been single for a while now and considers himself open for some changes in life. As he leaves his home, he sees Darren again and says hi before he heads up the mountain with his axe. The sun is up. It's a beautiful day. The sky is painted red with yellowish-purple shades and tinctures. The trees wave in the wind, creating a calming effect on this new day that brings new opportunities. However, the sky is not the only thing that is tainted red. Britko looks at his boots and is horrified when he sees blood on them. What? Where did this come from? He asks himself. He follows the blood up the hill, since he sees it flow down like a tiny river coming from somewhere above him. A few more steps and... Whoa! He says as he steps backward. What happened to him? A male elf is lying on the ground, dead and covered in blood. Britko squats and takes a closer look. The corpse has several cuts, big ones, which indicate the attack by someone with a sharp weapon. As he turns the body around and notices how even the male's face is disfigured, he can't help but sense a presence nearby. Britko looks behind his back and sees a handful of elves walk up the hill. Stay there, One of them shouts. Don't move. Gentlemen, Britko begins. I am unarmed. Someone has been murdered. Come take a look. 5 male elves are now standing around Britko, telling him to put his hands on his back. After he obeys their command, they tie him up and kick him down, causing him to fall into the dirt. Ugh! What are you doing? Britko asks. Unarmed, you say? And what is that? One of the elves asks, pointing at Britko's axe. Yes, that's my axe, but I use it to cut wood, nothing else. Don't you see? I found this body the way it is. Sure you did. Get him out of here, boys. Britko struggles at first, but the elves are carrying swords and bows, and while they push him down the hill to force him to keep walking, he shouts, This is a mistake. I am innocent. Innocent! Thud. Someone hits him on the head and he's knocked out. When he opens his eyes, he is sitting on a chair in a room. The room looks like a dungeon, with green moss on the bricks it's made of, and torture appliances on each side of it. What is this place? He asks. The commander who captured him is standing in front of him. He's wearing some kind of a uniform that specifies his position in law enforcement, and he's folding his arms, waiting for a convenient explanation. We're going to make you talk, he says. I've dealt with guys like you before. First of all, how do you explain being at the crime scene at the same morning the victim was murdered? I always go there. It's my job. I'm a lumberjack. Right. And what would you say would be the cause of death? Well, clearly an axe, Britko says. But it wasn't me. Sure. But your axe was right there, wasn't it? Yes. And you were there too. Yes, but... And nobody else ever goes to that place, do they? Not that I know of, but apparently this time someone did. Let me ask you this, Britko. That's your name, isn't it? How come no one ever goes to the location where you chop wood? But now that there's a murder victim, you claim that someone did. If nobody knows about that place, then why would they bother going there in the first place? I don't know. I already told you that. I was framed. The axe had no blood on it. Then why do you think it was me? You could have easily cleaned that up with some water. It doesn't prove anything. The elf says. Neither does anything else. Britko sneers. So let me go now, or I will take you to court and have a nice chat with the judge. You're a fighter, Britko. Good for you. But listen up. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I am the judge. And here's the thing. If you're not willing to confess what you did, I know methods to get it out of you. Trust me. I've been doing this for years. So I'm going to give you one final chance to admit to your deeds. We can do this the easy way, or the hard way. Drop dead, Britko says. Fine. Have it your way. Boys, see to it that he understands his duty to speak up. The other elves grab Britko and push him onto a table. 2 of them hold him down and the other 2 tie him up. His hands and feet are useless at this moment, as he lies on his back on the wooden table. Then they cover his face with a cloth and tighten it up. One of them gets a funnel and pushes it into his mouth. Another elf pours water into it. Britko says as he is almost choking. Do you want to tell me again that you didn't do it? One of the elves asks. You can drop dead too, Britko says while coughing up some water. Again, the water gets poured into his mouth. Britko feels like he is dying, but at the same time, this torturing method isn't enough to break him. After repeating the same abuse several times, they switch. Get the iron rod, one elf commands another one. When he comes back, he smirks and says, You've had many opportunities to take away our pleasure, big guy. But this time we won't go easy on you. Confess or suffer the consequences. For the last time, I did not do it. What is wrong with you? Britko yells. Suit yourself, the elf says. The other elves hand him an iron rod. He blows on the stick as to take care of the non-existent fumes and sticks the rod into Britko's side. "Ah!" Britko exclaims. "It burns!"
This rod was held in the fire by one of our finest blacksmiths,
the elf says.
He knows very well how to get it to the correct temperature, especially when it comes to branding the flesh of an elf. Since you're not answering me, I'm going to continue burning your skin until you tell me something I want to hear.
With those words, the torturer pokes the smoldering stick into Britko's side, who screams in agony but refuses to give up his innocence. 2 more hours go by. The law enforcers break Britko's fingers, cut into his skin, and choke him, up to the point that he almost dies. Eventually, a cage is placed around his feet. What is that for? Britko asks, finding it quite difficult to breathe. Oh, this? This is just a little torture technique I learned from a pro in Crystal City. See these cute little rodents? They would like nothing better than to have a piece of you. Britko shivers in fear as the elf pulls up a cage with rats in it. Their sharp teeth are contrasted with their dark, brown fur. They look hungry and violent, and ready to devour whatever flesh comes across their paths. 3 of the rats have already attacked each other, revealing some skin underneath their hairy surfaces. "Stop!" Britko says. "Please, stop, I will confess."
What?
The torturer asks with a grin on his face.
What did you say? Please speak louder.
"I will tell you everything," Britko repeats. "Just please, don't let the rats eat my feet."
Hold on a minute,
the elf says.
Let's have you confess in front of everyone. We need plenty of witnesses to hear your statement. Release him, boys.
The 3 others drag the fatigued body of the big elf up the stairs. He is unable to resist, and therefore allows them to do so. Then a door opens up. Britko is dragged outside the building and thrown onto the ground. It draws attention from the crowd. The villagers who are peacefully walking around and buying things at the market are now gathering around Britko and the guards to see what is going on.
Well,
do you have something to say? The torturer asks.
Remember, we could always put you back in that room and let the rats
have their way. Britko looks up. He is on his hands and knees and can hardly stand. His face is dirty, and the blood from the torture soothes the burning spots from the rod. He faces the crowd. "I did it," he says. "I killed that man in the woods." The villagers look angry.
"Curse you!"
one of them says.
"How dare you!"
another shouts.
"Murderer!"
An old woman yells as she throws a piece of fruit at him. More fruits and vegetables follow. The elves in Wrensville are spitting on this lonely, big elf, despising him for the cold crime he supposedly committed. The guards are watching for a little while, and then put an end to it.
Okay,
the torturer says.
That's good enough. Let's take him to prison.
Britko is being pulled away by the guards, who bring him to the village prison. He is surprised by the size of it, wondering if perhaps 1/5 of the entire town has ended up in there. He moves along and passes by the many cells and prisoners, who bang their cups against the bars and yell at him, unwelcoming their new inmate. In the prison cell, the guards instruct him to take off his clothes and put on a prison attire. A brownish-black shirt and some pants, colorless and boring. The guards watch and make demeaning comments about this downtrodden, depressed giant. When he is done, one of the guards whacks him with an iron rod, after which Britko falls on the floor. "Enjoy yourself, punk. You won't be leaving this place until you're dead." Britko is lying on the floor, bruised and beaten, injured and fatigued. He hardly has any strength in him, till he hears the scrawny, slick prisoner in the cell next to him whisper, "Hey you, big guy. My name is Britko." "Okay,
My name is Evlosio. Nice to meet you. Let me tell you one thing before you become a little whiner here. You cannot show weakness. If you show any emotion or fear, they will get you.
And do what? Britko asks. They can't do more to me anymore. I was tortured until I confessed.
You too, huh? Yes, that's what happened to me as well. But don't think it cannot get any worse. These male elves here, well, they have, urges. And since there is no she-elf around, they will take those out on anyone who submits to them. You must show them that they can't mess with you. Get it?
What? Are you saying that the prisoners abuse each other and the guards just stand by and watch?
The guards don't care about us. They are the worst. Sometimes they even participate. Believe me, you don't want to end up like that. I'd rather die. The only way I get away with being sane is by smuggling little goods into the cells. I know someone from the village who gets me supplies, and in turn for my products, the big chiefs leave me alone.
So what do I do? Britko asks.
Tomorrow, when we get food, just start beating up one of the big guys. You seem large enough to be able to do that. If you win, they'll respect you. If you lose, well, you'll have to provide despicable services to them from the rest of your stay. Got it?
Yes. Thank you for the information. I'm going to rest now.
Sleep well,
Evlosio says. Britko can hardly believe that he has ended up in a living nightmare like this. He knows he is innocent, and the only reason he confessed was to avoid being crippled for life. He had no idea that corruption had spread so far in Wrensville, that elves would torture each other and abuse each other in prison. The size and darkness of the building amazes him too. It's a little outside of town, and he's never visited it. It makes sense that there are so many prisoners, since elves get framed for murder so easily. But after a few minutes, he has no more strength or focus to contemplate the dreadful fate that has befallen him. He closes his eyes and falls asleep. Bang, bang, bang. Hey, idiot. Wake up, you have a visitor. One of the guards says after banging his rod on the prison bars. Britko is chained. His limbs are attached by the tainted makings of the elven elite. When he arrives downstairs, he is put into a singular cell. On the other side of the bars, he sees a she-elf. Alea? Britko says enthusiastically. How did you know I was here? But she doesn't look the same. She looks cold and distant, not like the way she greeted him earlier, 2 days ago. Sorry, she says. I just had to come and clarify things a little. You see, my husband was sneaking around and going from one woman to the other. Sure, I fool around too sometimes. By the way, you would not believe how many handsome young elves there are in this village, or in Crystal City for that matter. But he openly flirted with one of the locals, and I could not bear to see this continue. What are you talking about? What does this have to do with anything? Britko asks. You're so naive. Did you really think I was interested in you? I'm married, silly. Okay, I guess that wouldn't stop me, but still. I was just sick of my husband's adulterous moods. And what did that woman have that I don't? Ridiculous. So let me tell you something nobody else can hear. Alea moves forward and whispers. I killed my husband. I just needed someone to blame. And that's where you came in. Britko's pupils grow bigger. He looks at the evil female, doubting whether he should say anything or not. She steps back and goes on. Of course it took some effort. I mean, I had to steal your axe in the middle of the night, clean it so you wouldn't get suspicious, and still go to your favorite spot to chop wood. You know. Bribe the judges and guards with my husband's money, which is all mine now, yada yada yada. So anyway, thanks for taking the heat and becoming my alibi. I couldn't have done it without you. Ta-ta. She waves with 3 fingers over her shoulder and turns around, ready to walk away. Wait! Britko yells. You evil wench! Come back! You can't do this to me! Guards, take her! She just confessed to murder! I am innocent! The guards come in and grab Britko. They're not listening to what he says. Britko sees the wicked woman who framed him disappear, and he gets kicked back into his cell. It all makes sense now, but there's nothing he can do about it. He is powerless, and his life got messed up by a psycho woman who was in a messed up relationship. When it's lunchtime, the other prisoners stare at Britko as he follows the others to the lunchroom. Evlosio is walking next to him. "Remember what I said," he whispers. "And do you see those elves in skirts and female tops over there? You don't really think they're female, do you?" "No, it doesn't look like it." "Well, that's what I've been trying to tell you, man. This is your time to show them you're in charge. If you don't, you'll end up in a dress or some lady's underwear just like them. You have no idea what they will do to you if that happens. Get it?" "I understand," Britko says. But before he can say another word, a gigantic elf is standing in front of him, with a half-ripped shirt and huge muscles. "Today, you're going to give your lunch to me," he says. "I don't think so," Britko says, and he punches him in the face. "Oof!" the big elf exclaims as he falls on one of the tables and accidentally breaks it in half. He gets up and shouts, "You will pay for that." Within seconds, all the inmates are wound up. There's a fight going on, and everyone is rooting for the big elf Britko is facing. But in order to show his dominance, he knows he has to win this fight. For a while, the two roll over the floor, punching, kicking, and even biting each other. The animalistic hierarchy in this prison is a typical example of the raw nature the elves drop to when times get rough, and walls are containing them. Britko fights as hard as he can to achieve a position in this ladder among the lowlives. The troublemakers in this setting are suppressed by the guards, and have an innate desire to suppress anyone else they can, so that their self-esteem doesn't hang on a thread as much as could be the case. As Britko pulls all his energy into beating up the guy on top of him, he glances at the male inmates who are forced to dress up in female clothes. He cannot, and does not want to, imagine the horrific life these poor boys ended up having, nor will he ever allow himself to submit to such terror and abusive acts. The thought gives him strength, and he kicks off the inmate, who bangs his head on the wall. Britko gets up, walks over to him, and punches him in the face. Thud. "Again," he thinks. Thud. "Again," his senses tell him. Thud. Knocked out. Britko grabs the inmate by his shirt and throws his unconscious body on the floor in front of him. The prisoners are quiet. They didn't expect this. "I am your superior now," Britko roars as loudly as he can. "Nobody will do anything unless they ask me first. We are going to have some new rules here. You can count on that." Then he walks to one of the tables and says, "Which one is his lunch?" Shaking a little, two inmates point at one of the meals on a different table. Britko walks to the table and begins to eat. "His lunch belongs to me from now on. Got that?" he says. Some of the elves nod. Others are afraid to approach him. Britko keeps eating. Suddenly, the wall behind him breaks in half. Wham! It happens by surprise, and the sides of the lunchroom wall crumble as the bricks hit some inmates, causing a big mess. Britko looks over. "What the?" he says. "Orcs!" one of the prisoners yells. "Run for your lives!" Panic begins as several enormous orcs walk through the wall and club the prisoners and guards to death. The alerted hierarchy in the room has suddenly shifted again, as this hostile race doesn't distinguish between the convicted inmates and the sadistic guards. To them, everyone is the enemy. Blood is spilled. It splashes all over the room. Bones are crushed. A massacre is occurring. Britko quickly jumps onto the ground and hides beneath the table, hoping that he won't be discovered. The orcs are at least twice his size, and have already killed several dozens of the elves with their sharp swords and axes. Limbs, body parts, and heads are lying all over the floor. Screams and cries are heard. It's horrifying. And Britko wishes he could do something, anything, to protect at least a few of the less abusive elves around him. After some time, the screaming stops, and the action is over. The only thing he hears are footsteps disappearing into the distance. Without a word, the orcs leave the chaotic mess behind them. Britko is afraid to leave his hiding place for another half hour. Finally, when he considers the coast to be clear, he gets up and looks at the pile of elven corpses. He keeps himself from throwing up, as every step ends up in a puddle of blood or a chopped-off body part. It's unbelievable that he is the only person who survived the raid, but he counts himself lucky and accepts this controversial, ironic reality. "Aha!" he says when he sees one of the guards on the floor, dismembered and bleeding all over. "Got your keys." In frustration, and with his heart still pumping fast, he kicks the merciless guard in an attempt to find satisfaction, despite the fact that the guard is already dead. And no matter how horrible and gruesome the scene was, there is something inside Britko that tells him he is free at last. "I am leaving. Goodbye, Rensville," Britko says. "And I am never coming back." 6. The Tombs. Visus looks at Britko, who gazes into the distance. The memories of that wretched town still haunt him, and it's clear to see. He hasn't let go, and the shock of what his own race did to each other in secret, within the prison walls, lingers on his mind. "Sounds like you went through a lot," Visus says. "I didn't know there were so many prisoners. Were there any prisons for women?" "I heard some of the convicts talk about a prison for the she-elves," Britko answers. "But supposedly, it was even further up in the mountains. Either way, you can't say there is nothing wrong with the society if such a big part of its population ends up in prison. Then, you have to look at what's flawed in the system." "I totally agree," Visus says. "Besides, there are worse things than prison," Licinia says, jumping in and joining the conversation. "Really? I can't imagine what would be worse," Britko says. "Have you been paying attention to anything I said?" "Oh, yes, I have. But trust me, there are worse things." "Okay, if you say so." "I think we're almost there," Visus says. The 4 elven warriors and 50 dwarves behind them reach the top of a certain hill. They look down and enjoy their view. At the bottom of the other side of the hill, they see a ruined temple of some sort. A square building with a tower in the middle, deserted and broken, but still sufficiently intact to leave the visitors wondering and imagining its original shape. The material varies between sandstone and solid cement mixes. Bricks have been sloppily put together by careless individuals who just wanted to get the job done, or so it seems. The environment is empty. There is nothing but soil, weeds, and the occasional tree or rock. The whole edifice has something mysterious to it. The winds blow into each direction, causing the elves and dwarves to question their senses, and the aura is dark and hollow, an uncomfortable feeling that despite its long, empty uselessness, there are still souls who dwell in these chambers. "It's almost spooky, isn't it?" Visus says. "My compass is going crazy," one of the dwarves comments. "Look, the needles are pointing everywhere." "Do you feel that wind?" another dwarf asks. "It's like there should be a tornado here or something, but there's nothing." "This is a cursed place," another dwarf says. "The tombs of Conrock provide shelter for lost spirits who have done nothing but evil in their days. It is being said that the worst extortionists, assassins, and most corrupted dictators have been buried here. Their souls do not rest. They are among us." "I thought you just said this was a sacred resting place, Visus," Warrian says. "Yes, I did. And actually, that's all I've heard about it. So I don't know where you got your information, dwarf, but what if it's just all crazy talk? Some flaky folklore to entertain the masses?" "It's not," the dwarf says. "I assure you, we must be ready to face the doomed spirits of terror here. I will lead the way." "Sure, if you know what you're doing," Visus says. "Thanks. I will guide you through. Follow me, the dwarf yells. The others walk behind him as he descends down the hill and cuts some weeds with his machete. When they are finally at the bottom of the hill, they look up at the ruins towering above them. It certainly looks different from up close, Britko says. Have you ever seen anything like this? Visis asks. As they stare at the ruins in front of them, they realize that the dots they saw from a distance are decorated stones in the shape of skulls. They don't appear to be actual skulls, but at least the overall impression is overwhelming. Wherever they look, they see this theme depicted across the building. Skull paintings, skeleton statues, and little ornaments in the shape of skulls, mostly from elves, but also from animals and monsters. The skull above the entrance is the most terrifying one, portraying the sharp teeth and long, gigantic head of a dragon. Interesting, Warrian says as he studies the macabre patterns on the walls. Well, the dwarf in charge says, the door is open, so let's go inside. Very artistic and architectural indeed, but we have a diamond to fetch, don't we? He steps forward and then realizes, perhaps we should create some torches first. Another dwarf says, there's no way you're going to get farther than a few steps, but if it's light you're looking for, we can get some branches and other materials. Yes, let's do that. Everyone splits up. They spread across the field with bushes and trees around the ruins and come back. After some time, many of the dwarves are carrying torches. There is enough light, and the dwarf leader heads into the temple with the tombs. The dwarves go first, and the elves follow at the end. In the main hallway, they hold their torches close to the walls, noticing the elaborate paintings of death and destruction, of falling warriors and invading skeletons. Visis can only guess what has happened in this area when he views the violent displays on each wall. Sword fighting, archery, and epic battles are all over the relatively low ceiling as well. He considers it a disappointment that they know so little about Terra's history, and that this is yet another story that has been lost and faded by the mists of time. After the main hallway, they enter a big room, with enough space to accommodate 10 armies their size. These must be the tombs, Visis says, as he slides his fingers across one of the coffins lying around. Look, there are hundreds of them. On all sides of the room, coffins and tombstones are visible. Each dwarf investigates a small, different corner, all lighting up the area with their torches. Some coffins are small, others are bigger, but one of them stands out like none other. Whoa! Check this one out! One of the dwarves says when he sees the gigantic coffin in the middle of the room. The entire army surrounds him and helps him lift the lid from the coffin. Underneath it, there is a big skeleton, 4 times the size of the elves and even bigger in comparison with the dwarves. Some of them rub their beards, others shrug and leave the coffin alone. It must be the skeleton of a giant or something, one of the dwarves says. Let's look for the diamond, guys. Maybe we should go over there, a dwarf suggests, pointing at a door in the distance. It leads to another room, I'm sure. It doesn't seem to be a diamond in here anyway. You're right, the dwarf leader agrees. Let's head over there.
Huh? Where are we going?
Warrian wants to know. Over there. Apparently there is an exit there, Visis says. The 4 follow the army of dwarves and find themselves in a narrow stairway that leads into a space underneath the building they didn't even suspect was there. When they finally reach the bottom of the stairs, they see a bridge and a ravine. The elves are standing next to the dwarves, secure and steady, on a platform that leads to the bridge, the only way to cross the deep ravine beneath them. One of the dwarves picks up a rock and throws it down into the mysterious, black emptiness. Time elapses. And more. Finally, they hear a soft thud in the distance, way down at the bottom. I propose we don't fall, Britko says sheepishly. I don't think we would survive that. Visis and Warrian raise one eyebrow and look at him, as if he is being blatantly obvious. You think? Visis asks. I'm glad we're on the same page. Just saying, Britko says. turning around. Licinia grabs the bridge's railing, which consists of nothing more than a thick rope. She pulls on it, wiggles it, and then asks, "Do you think it's strong enough to hold us?" The dwarf leader puts his hand on her side and says with a smile, "What's keeping you from trying it, baby?" The she-elf looks insulted. She is furious. She's trying to hold in her rage, but seems unable to do so. She's boiling up inside, and finally expresses it in the best way she knows how.
"Look, Mr. Dwarf, or whatever your name is,"
she begins.
"First of all, my name is Licinia, so don't call me baby or any other derogatory name. And secondly, I am positive that this bridge will hold me. If you haven't noticed, I am well aware of my posture, my body weight, and a lot of other things you don't care about. The question is, if it will hold your fat belly without breaking in half. But if that makes you insecure, then by all means, why not let me, the lady, go first and try it out?"
Amused that he provoked the feminine character, the dwarf leader steps back and says, "Go on then. Let's see if it holds."
"Fine. I will show you,"
Licinia says. She gets on the bridge and notices that it's not rickety or shaky at all. It's a fairly solid bridge, and as soon as she stands on it, all her fears are gone. She turns around with attitude, putting one hand on her hip and waving her hair a little. Her eyelids are halfway closed, and her body language says it all. "Okay, looks balanced enough," the leader says. "Move, men. Let's cross this bridge."
"Hold on,"
Licinia says.
"Since I was the first one to get on this bridge, I think you owe it to our race to lead the way."
"I don't see a problem there. Go ahead," the dwarf leader says, folding his arms.
"Come on, guys,"
Licinia says, beckoning the 3 male elves to follow her. Visis, Warren, and Britko move through the dwarf army and walk onto the bridge.
"So what's this obsession with your appearance?"
Warren asks.
"Huh? What do you mean?"
Licinia asks back.
"I'm not obsessed with my appearance. I don't know what you're talking about."
"Fine. Deny it. But you have to admit that you're quite the looker. I mean, I'm sorry if this sounds too forward, but I've never seen anyone as attractive as you."
"Really?"
Licinia says, blushing a little, but then her facial expression instantly changes.
"Well, you and so many other males," she says with a sarcastic voice, "you're all the same. And just because my body is pleasing your eyes doesn't mean you can say things like that. So keep it to yourself, idiot."
Warren is surprised.
"What did I say?"
he asks the others. Visis and Britko shrug. They have no idea why his remarks bothered Licinia so much, but they don't want to get too involved in the conversations either, so they both stay quiet.
"I'm sorry, Licinia,"
Warren says.
"I didn't mean anything by it. I was just trying to compliment you. If you don't like what I said, then I take it back."
Licinia sighs. "I guess you didn't have any bad intentions," she concludes. "Don't worry about it. It's just that sometimes I don't know whether someone is sincere or not. That's all."
"I understand. I've seen a lot of hypocrisy myself. Don't forget that I am coming from the same village. I may not have known you before or the things you went through, but I've definitely seen some awful scenes in that town."
The elves and dwarves are still walking across the narrow bridge in a line. The bridge is weighed down a bit, but its size and structure prevent it from becoming hazardous. Except for the chatting voices and the occasional laughter by the dwarves, it is dead silent. But not for long. Crack! "What's that?" Visis asks. "Where's that sound coming from?" All the dwarves are looking up. Something is happening above them. But nobody knows what. 7. Trapped. "This place is falling apart," a dwarf yells as he feels some grit on his face from the ceiling. The dwarves are nervous. Panic is in the air, and still, nobody knows what is coming. The end of the bridge isn't even in sight yet. It's so far that the torches don't reveal its location. They just trust that it's there, and they keep walking towards it. But with this abrupt change, they're all standing still, more alert than ever. Suddenly another sound rips through the air.
Syak! Yarg!
One of the dwarves exclaims.
What is going on there?
Visis wants to know.
He just got hit by an arrow.
The dwarf shouts back.
An arrow from where?
Visis asks. But before the dwarf can answer, another arrow hits the dwarf in front of him.
Syak!
The arrow is stuck in the dwarf's throat, and he dies within seconds, choking to death and bleeding heavily.
What is happening? Where did it come from? Who's there?
Another dwarf yells.
Show yourself!
Syak! Another arrow, another victim, another death. All the arrows are coming from the side, from both sides. The leader looks at the situation and commands all the dwarves to hold their shields to the sides. The dwarves all duck and hold their shields up. Those who don't have shields hide behind the other ones, trying to protect their own skin. More and more arrows fly through the sky, and some of the dwarves get hit. Visis and the other elves are far ahead of them and are looking at each other, wondering if they should go back and help. But when they hear the screams of their fellow warriors, Licinia urges them to keep going.
We can't just leave them there,
Visis says.
We have to do something. And face the same fate ourselves? Are you crazy?
Licinia asks.
No thanks. I am out of here. You're a coward,
Visis says as he snatches a torch from Britko's hands and runs back towards the middle of the bridge. However, when he gets closer, he immediately understands why such horrible sounds came from the dwarf army. Some dwarves are lying down, bathing in their own blood, and some others are stepping on and over them, trying to walk towards the end, but failing to do so. Several dwarves are falling off the bridge into the deep ravine. Others are being shot by arrows, but since there is no enemy in sight, Visis assumes that these must be booby traps. The dwarves are panicking and running into both directions. Visis flinches when a few dwarves are running towards him, but are being impaled by sudden spikes, emanating from the bottom of the bridge. A horrifying sight.
Help us! Please help us!
A dwarf desperately begs, seeing Visis stand by and doing nothing.
Leave them!
He hears the voice of the only female in the group yell from behind.
You can't save them. Let's go.
The young elf is stuck between decisions. He watches as one dwarf is being struck by a heavy brick, falling from the ceiling, and trips into a blade in the ground. Another dwarf is being thrown off balance by evading an arrow, and accidentally decapitates his fellow warrior with his axe by carelessly swinging it around him. As death and blood paint the scene of the chaotic mess, the traps slowly take out the entire army of dwarves, one by one. Visis still hesitates. He didn't want these terrible things to happen to the brave warriors who were willing to help him, but he also realizes that going in there may cost him his life. As the dwarves' death unfold before his very eyes, and the booby traps continue to kill the victims one by one, an intense battle is going on inside of him. His duty and his survival instinct are at war, and he has to make a choice.
Arr!
Another dwarf dies, hit by another rock from the ceiling. One of the last dwarves exclaims as an arrow hits his side.
Just go,
the dwarf leader yells.
The bridge is falling apart. Don't you feel it?
But what about you? Visis shouts back.
Don't worry about us, boy. Just do as you're told. Get out of here.
Kya!
The dwarf leader was about to come closer, but before he could, another blade from the bottom of the bridge, hidden to prevent any unwanted visitors and set up as a trap, cut through his leg. This is the last straw. Visis doesn't see any possible way to rescue these dwarves, and he feels lucky that he isn't in the same spot, facing the same traps. He decides. He runs off, back to the other elves. In the meantime, the bridge is shaking. It's slowly collapsing by the added weight of the rock, and the unstable movement of the dwarves. Visis runs as fast as he can, still holding onto his torch.
Come on! Come on!
He hears Britko yell.
This bridge is going to fall any minute now. Get over here already.
Visis feels a sense of relief when he discerns the shapes in the distance. The end of the bridge is in sight, but he is not there yet. Then again, all of a sudden, the sound he dreaded.
Crack. Visas drops his torch and sprints towards the end. The bridge is slowly collapsing beneath his feet. From horizontal to diagonal, Visas gives it all he's got. But when the bridge is becoming more vertical, with the loose end behind him dropping into the ravine, he jumps. Help! Visas yells as he soars through the air. Gotcha! Britko says while catching his friend's hand. Don't let go! Don't let go! Visas begs him. Urgh! Britko says while grinding his teeth and putting all his effort into lifting the young elf up with one arm. When he's almost on the platform, Warrion and Licinia help him reach safety. Britko lets himself drop onto the ground, backwards, panting all the way. You're much heavier than you look, he says after a while. Visas is still in shock. It feels as if his life flashed before his eyes, and he just barely cheated death, which he did. Are you all right? Britko asks. Yes, I'm fine. I'm fine. Wow, I can't believe I made it. Had you come any earlier, you wouldn't have had to run so fast, Licinia emphasizes. I just wanted to do everything I could to help them, Visas says. They would have done the same for me, I'm sure. Perhaps. But you have to know when to let go, buddy, Licinia says. You can't save everyone. The sooner you accept that, the better it will be for all of us. I'll work on it, Visas says, still feeling the guilt of omitting his duty to his fellow warriors. I just find it hard, you know. I couldn't save my parents. I couldn't protect Solana. And now I lost 50 men that I abandoned in the heat of battle. You cannot look at it that way, Visas, Britko says. It wasn't your fault. None of us knew there were booby traps. Besides, you saved us from the living statues in that freezing cold cave, and you rescued those children in Crystal City from their kidnappers. There's only so much you can do, but if you give up, nobody is going to benefit from your efforts. See my point? It all makes sense, Britko, and I already knew all that. But thanks for the pep talk anyway. I think I needed it. You have a strong conscience, Visas. Don't let it go to waste. Where do we go next? Licinia asks, waving her torch around. It looks like there's only one door, Visas says. Let's go over there. I mean, we can't go back anyway, so let's hope there is a way out. The 4 elves leave the ravine and the broken bridge for what they are, looking back one more time to respect the attempted contribution of the dwarves, and open the door to the next room. When they enter, they observe similar paintings as in the first hallway, but the floor is made from square tiles, a suspicious difference that Visas instantly notices. Another door is on the other side of the room. Licinia hands the torch to Britko. Here you go, big boy. You can hold it. My arm is getting tired. I see the door over there. It looks like there isn't much else in this room, so what are we waiting for? Wait, Visas says. But it is too late. The tile Licinia steps on triggers a mechanism, and a brick wall moves between the 4 elves like lightning speed. Bam! It divides them asunder. Britko ends up on one side of the wall, and the others on the other side. Visas can feel his heart beating. That was close, he says. It could have crushed us. How did you know that I wasn't safe? Licinia asks. I never trust anything. I'm way more careful than you are, in case you haven't noticed by now, Visas answers. They knock on the wall. Britko, are you there? Visas asks. A muffled sound is heard, a voice that seems to indicate that he is all right, and will find a way out of there. What did he say? Warrion asks. Shh, Visas says. I can't hear him. Britko, can you repeat that, please? I can't reach the door, Britko says. I will find my way back to you. Don't worry. Okay, Visas says. Then he turns to Warrion and Licinia and says, Let's look around for some other door. Pointless, Licinia says. We're stuck. Trapped. It's pitch black. We have no torch, and before that annoying wall came between us, it was already clear that there was no other way out. You're quite the optimist, aren't you? Visas says. Well, excuse me for not finding too much joy in my circumstances.
I just didn't have an easy life, okay?
Since we are stuck here anyway, Warrian says, why don't you tell us more about what you've been through?
You're just going to judge me anyway, Licinia says. It's none of your business. We all have our backgrounds, Visas says. If you don't want to share anything, that's fine with me. But just remember that we are not here to condemn you. All we want is to understand where you're coming from.
Yes. Tell us about the beautiful girl underneath that face, Warrian says. What is she like?
Your flirting is as futile as your attempts to carry that big sword of yours, Licinia answers. But all right then, I give in. I will tell you what my depressing life was like before that wicked village got burned down to the ground. I guess I was more of a victim than a perpetrator anyway.
8. Exploitation. The 12-year-old girl puts the eggs on the table. Only 3. It is becoming worse every day. Yesterday they had 5 eggs, and the day before that, they had 6. The kitchen counter is filthy, just like the rest of the house. Cleaning is a task that has been neglected for years, and the elven children are used to it by now. Dust is all over the place. Filthy leftovers cover the table, and peelings, seeds, and dirt are on the floor. It is a mess, and there is no hope for change.
What is wrong with these chickens? Don't they want to lay eggs anymore?
She says rhetorically. She cannot even imagine the disappointment on her mother's face, and she is reluctant to show her the limited amount of eggs they gathered. She kicks the table and sits down on a chair.
Stupid chickens,
she says. Her brothers and sisters come in, 4 to be precise.
Did you bring the eggs? How many did we get this time? Only 3, the girl says. What? But there are 5 of us, her brother yells. I know, it's not enough. But what are we going to do?
We'll tell Mom that you and I already ate, her older brother says.
But then she'll get angry anyway. You know she wants us to wait for her.
It's the only way. Shh! She's coming.
Kids, the mother says, immediately rebuking her young ones. When I tell you to close the lids on the pans, I mean it. There are enough flies in here already.
The meager mother is dressed in slacks. Her hair covers most of her face, hiding some of her warts and wrinkles. Her shirt is worn and dirty from working in the field, and she is tired. Dead tired.
When I come home, I expect you to at least do what I say. Is this my reward for laboring in the cornfields all day? She asks. You children don't know how good you have it. If my husband were here, may his soul rest in peace, he would discipline you well. How many eggs did we get from the chickens? Well, we got 5. The girl lies. But my brother and I ate ours already. What? You're not supposed to eat yours. We eat as a family. Get out of here this instant.
The mother pushes the 2 children out the door and closes it. They look perplexed. They realize that they won't eat anything that day, and their lie was necessary, or so they figure. And the evening will be long and hard. If only there was something that could improve their impoverished circumstances. And there is. The next day they wake up outside. The sky is clear and the farm fields are still there. Of course they are. Nothing else ever happens in their lives, so any change is good, isn't it? This morning is different than the other ones. Changes are coming indeed. They are coming with the arrival of a big male elf in sophisticated clothing. Look at that, the oldest brother tells his sister.
Whoa, who's that? I've never seen him before.
He must be from Wrensville. When Mom took us there for supplies, I saw some other guys like that. Their clothes are fancy. I don't know what they do for a living, but I think that I want to do whatever they're doing.
Don't you want to be a farmer? Like our dad?
Of course not. No disrespect, but Dad didn't make any money. He barely kept us alive. And now that he's dead, Mom is gone a lot more often. This is no way of living. It's a bad life, sister.
Maybe I can help,
the girl says. How?
By going to Wrensville and finding a job.
Good luck. I heard it's tough. But perhaps it depends on what you do. They talk a little longer, flicking rocks at a rat and plucking weeds from the backyard to pass the time. Obviously, the elf in the fancy clothes is talking to their mother. The two siblings peek around the corner trying to catch anything they say. After a while, the mother comes outside and says,
"Take your stuff, Licinia. You're going to Wrensville with this gentleman." "But Mom, what am I going to do?" "He has a job for you. Don't worry. You're going to help your family by working and sending home some money. Okay?" "What kind of job is it?"
the young Licinia asks.
"Stop asking questions and do as you're told. Come along now."
It's the beginning. The beginning of 7 long years. How could a girl that age ever know what she is signing up for? Now it's 7 years later. 2 other young elves are listening to her story. They're sitting in a small room, empty and clean. It's the welcoming room for customers. An old she-elf and a couple of male elves are standing outside, preventing them from going anywhere.
"You are only 12 years old?"
one of the 3 elves asks.
"Yes. I've been here for 7 years,"
Licinia says.
"And did you already average about 10 customers per day at that age as well?" 20,
Licinia says.
20? You're saying that you were forced to do 20 customers per day at the age of 12?
Yes, on average.
Sometimes a lot more than that.
One of the girls gets a little agitated.
"How come you keep track of that, Licinia? What are you trying to prove?" "I get bored, so it gives me something to do. It basically tells me how many men I would kill if I had the chance. It keeps me alive. Believe me, someday they're all going to pay. Those disgusting... Well, I won't waste my words on them. My mom sold me for 100 pieces of gold, and I'm going to show them that I am worth much more than that." "That's not even that much,"
one of the elves admits.
"But I was never sold. I got abducted. To this day, my parents still don't know where I am." "Where are you from?"
Licinia asks.
"From Crystal City. I would give anything to go back there." "Don't count on it,"
Licinia says.
"How many attempts have you made to escape this place?" 13? No, perhaps 14. "And, Nathalia, how many times have you succeeded?" 0. But Clovey almost made it out."
Clovey looks at the others.
"Till I got caught," she says. "It's pointless. Those pimps know what they're doing. I have hated this place from the very first day I worked here,"
Licinia says.
"but I know my family needs the money. If they really cared about you, they would rescue you and help you find a different job,"
Nathalia says.
"They don't understand how awful it is,"
Licinia says.
"I tried to send my mom a letter describing the circumstances in which we live, but she would have none of it. Anyway, I hear another customer coming, I think. It's the same one from 2 weeks ago. Let's see whom he chooses this time."
Not much later, the old woman from outside enters the room and introduces a male elf.
"Girls, stand up," she says. "This man is prepared to pay double if you do exactly as he tells you. I already accepted his offer, but now he will choose one of you."
The customer walks back and forth for a number of seconds and observes the scantily dressed women in front of him. "Tough choice," he says. "This one has a pretty face, but the other one looks more feminine."
"You can only choose one, or the price triples,"
the old woman says. "All right. I picked this one," he finally says, pointing at Licinia. "Come here, baby. We're going to have some good times. Stuff you've never done before." He takes Licinia by the hand and pulls her a little as they walk up the stairs and disappear into one of the bedrooms. "You're a real babe," he says again. "I have to say that it wasn't easy, but you still stood out. and that makes you special. Come on, let's see some action. What do you have underneath those clothes?
All the sarcastic comments from the previous years come to mind, and Licinia feels a desperate need to chastise him for his fake flattery, but she keeps her mouth shut. There have been times before when she spoke up, and she got punished afterwards. The pimps don't take disobedience lightly, and conforming is part of their survival. It hasn't taken long to learn that. The walls are thin. She hears another girl talk in the room next to her. Sometimes it still dawns on her that the 22 young elves who live here aren't even satisfying the demand of the several hundred Johns who indulge themselves in these adulterous practices and let go of their most brutal, dominant fantasies. What bothers her most, though, is that the other half of the village that doesn't participate turns away from it all in fear and refuses to acknowledge the problem. They are completely ignoring the abuse of innocent victims like herself, just to stay out of trouble. To the old she-elf, it's business, nothing else. She gets paid a lot every time a customer comes in. As the loathsome weakling in front of her takes off his shirt, she looks out the window and observes the back of the house. Children are playing in the street. Old elves are sweeping their porch, and vendors are shouting that everyone should purchase their merchandise. It's freedom. If only she was there, and not in that room. Hey, you, the customer says after some time. Quit staring out the window and come here. I have a surprise for you. And that's the last thing she will remember from that hour. She always turns off her thoughts when she has to perform a task. It's the best way to erase the memories she would rather forget. Being physically present and mentally absent is the only thing she can do. An hour later, the customer leaves, and Licinia cleans herself by pouring a bucket of ice-cold water on her. The washing is both practical and symbolic, cleaning up the filth from her soul as well as from her body. When she is finished, she goes back to the room with the 2 other girls. They are gone, replaced by 4 other she-elves, who are done with their customers as well. Although they all know what they did, they usually don't talk about it. It's as if shame overcomes them, despite the fact that none of it is their fault. Licinia is sitting there, feeling relieved that it's over, hoping that she won't be chosen by the next person. She waits, and waits, and waits. And suddenly the one who comes in has a familiar face. Father Lurius? Licinia thinks. What is he doing here? Isn't he supposed to be a member of the clergy? Isn't it required of him to control himself?
Ladies, the corrupted priest begins as he enters the room. I'm going to decide which of you lucky girls deserves to please me. A single attractive male like me needs a break every once in a while. So who is it going to be?
You don't have to ask them, the old elven woman says. It's your choice. Just tell me which one interests you the most. They are very, talented.
Please don't pick me, Licinia thinks. Please don't pick me.
Her, the priest says after a few seconds, pointing at Licinia.
Licinia feels her heart beating faster. She thought she was done for the day. The evening has begun, and sometimes if they're lucky, the number of elves entering their business becomes less. But not now. Not this day. She sighs and follows the dirty preacher up the stairs. When they are in the same room as before, she turns to him and says, One of these days, you will answer to the Almighty for your promiscuous deeds, Father.
Oh, don't be so melodramatic, baby. What's wrong with a little fun? It's all natural. Stop talking and get undressed already. This won't take long.
Good,
Licinia says. That evening there is a blackness in the air, something she has never sensed before. Her intuitive instincts tell her that disaster is near. But so is liberation. Things are going to be different from that day on. She doesn't know how yet, but something is telling her that there is hope from this nightmarish lifestyle. A drastic turn that will alternate their fortunes. As she descends down the stairs, she sees most of the girls sitting there. They're nervous. They know something is wrong. What's happening? Licinia asks.
I don't know,
Natalia answers.
We haven't seen any new customers this evening after that priest. It became dead quiet. I don't think we're going to see another John in here.
Why does that concern you? Licinia asks.
Doesn't that just mean we finally have the night off? Yes, perhaps, but there could be worse things.
Makes you wonder what? Licinia says. But I'm not going to stand here and wait. Let's go check it out. Are you crazy? Clovey asks. Do you know what the pimps will do to you if they catch you?
I'm sure you've experienced that firsthand with all your escape attempts. But don't worry. All I'm going to do is stick my head through the door and see what's going on outside.
No sooner said than done. Licinia peeks through the crack of the front door. Her face lights up as she realizes that the pimps and the old woman have left.
You would not believe this,
she says excitedly as she turns around.
They're gone. I don't know where they went, but they're gone.
Are you sure? Clovey asks. I would rather not risk anything.
Really? This is the one time it looks safe to escape, and you're thinking about missing out on that opportunity? What are we still doing here? Let's get out of this hell hole.
Licinia carefully opens the door. It's empty indeed. The streets are deserted, but notwithstanding the quietness in their own street, it scares them to listen to the screams and roars in the distance.
Something is happening over there,
Natalia says.
It's not right. We shouldn't stay in Wrensville.
Elves are dying, Clovey comments.
Don't you hear it? But who's doing the killing?
Perhaps they've turned against each other, Licinia says.
But either way, how about we head towards Crystal City? Maybe we can find a better future there.
The others nod, and Licinia takes the lead. The 22 she-elves follow her into an alley. The cries from the distance are getting louder, as if they are approaching the battlefield. Still, they have yet to find out what has suddenly occurred that made the village so divided. And then they know. An enormous orc jumps in front of them, holding in his hand the heads of 3 elves he just brutally murdered. The blood is dripping from his axe, his teeth are sharp, and the drool from his mouth falls on the ground in front of the group of females. He growls and steps forward, ready to mutilate his next victim. Ah! A she-elf behind him screams in agony. The orc turns around.
This is it,
Licinia says.
Quickly, follow me.
She dives into a side alley, and the other girls follow her. They hide behind the wall, hoping that the giant orc didn't see them disappear. They wait and pant heavily, feeling the adrenaline in their blood. Each of them would rather stay here, away from the murderous raid.
There,
Licinia says after a while. An elven corpse in one of the alleys catches her eye. She sprints towards it and bends over, takes the sword that was lying next to its victim, and runs back.
Wow, Licinia, Natalia says. After seeing those orcs, I wouldn't have dared to leave the alley. You're pretty courageous.
Thanks, but we can't stay here. We have to leave town.
But how?
Clovey asks.
We still have about 10 blocks until we reach the hills. It's suicide to go out there.
So is staying here, Licinia says. Just stay behind me. I will try to protect you. If I die, you all have to run into different directions. That's the best possible way to avoid being killed.
Okay.
Let's go. We'll sneak past the mayhem like that. You'll see. In her mind, she convinces herself that what she says is true, realizing that she has to stay confident and unafraid in front of the others, just to instill courage in them. Then she looks around the corner to check if the coast is clear, and leads the young elves from the brothel several blocks away. When she reaches a certain wide street, she stops. Suddenly, her emphatic side is tested. An opportunity to make a choice comes across her way. The irony that someone who has subjugated her in the past is now at her mercy is an inescapable pleasure. She savors the chance for revenge, and it is too sweet to pass up. One of the male villagers who has visited the brothel for years comes running towards her.
Help!
He yells.
Help!
Behind him, orcs are slaughtering the villagers, and he seems to be the only one who is able to slip through the cracks.
Please, help me,
he says after catching his breath.
It's a massacre. They're killing everyone.
Ah, If it isn't my friend from the brothel, Licinia says in a sarcastic tone. The elf looks up, bending over with his hands on his knees after sprinting away from the battle behind him.
Huh? Oh, it's you. I recognize you. You're, Lavia... No. Licinia, that's it. Licinia, right?
Yes, I am, Licinia says, but I don't seem to recall your name. I wonder why that is. The elf looks scared.
What?
Licinia goes closer and says softly, It's because all I remember is your face during all the times you made me do gross, repulsive things in that despicable house. And you know what? It's funny how the tides have turned in my favor. His pupils widen. Before he can say another word, he feels the air being pushed out by his lungs. He looks down and is shocked to see Licinia's sword thrust into his stomach. That's for the 50 times you raped me, you slut, Licinia says. The blood is slowly coming out, and Licinia pulls out her weapon. The elf exclaims as he falls to the ground. She smirks. She has never killed anyone before, but at that moment, she finds it difficult to let go of the satisfaction she is feeling. Vengeance is a strange thing. It's sweet and desirable, but when it comes to a close, it leaves one empty inside. And still, when she runs into another alley, followed by her friends, she doesn't feel the guilt yet. She has been numbed down by all the traumatic exploitation at the hands of the villagers. She doesn't care about them anymore. Let them die, she thinks. There is nobody here worth saving. However, as they turn around the corner, she sees the priest. Father Lurius is being driven into a corner by 3 orcs, begging for his life. Licinia watches from a distance as he shrinks into the corner and gets on his knees. He says some inaudible prayers and moves his hands up and down to symbolize his call for heavenly help. He gets none. One of the orcs approaches him, raises his sword, and cuts the priest vertically in half. And although Licinia is usually not entertained by violence, and although the girls are all encouraging her to keep moving, she insists on watching the scene until there is nothing left of the distant hypocrite. Rot in hell, Father Lurius, she mumbles. Your life was a waste.
Come on, Licinia. Let's go. Let's go.
Clovey shouts, pushing her along. Okay, now I'm done here, Licinia says. I just needed to see this. The hills are over there. We've almost made it, girls. 9. Undead bodies. Warrian looks as if filled with compassion. He glances at Licinia but is speechless. Harsh, Visas comments. I had no idea about the prostitutes and the trafficking in Rensville. For such a small town, there was a lot of evil, Licinia says. And Warrian? Nothing personal, but I am tired of men in a general sense, as you can imagine.
That's understandable.
Warrian agrees. An awkward silence follows, and 3 of them stare into the distance. It's a tragic story of abuse and lost innocence, and it gives Visas some new insights about the dispositions of the elves in his hometown. He cannot even fathom how terrible it would have been if Solana would have been forced into such a situation. Awful, he mumbles. Then, out of the blue, the wall on the other side breaks. Did you have a nice chit-chat? They hear Britko's voice utter as he holds a torch in his hands. Britko, Visas shouts. Way to go! Good job, big guy, Licinia says as she moves towards the light, followed by the other 2. I think I know where to go now, Britko says. Come with me. The 3 warriors follow the big elf into another room. The torch lights up the entire room, and it's almost creepy how much is being revealed. On either side of the giant room there are carvings and paintings portraying skulls and rotting corpses. Symbols are dormant, and the whole of it gives the impression that some black magic has been happening here. The atmosphere is awkward and uncomfortable, as if something is lurking behind the shadows to catch them by surprise at any moment. The grim contrast between the torches and the macabre images forms an impression on the warriors' minds they will never forget. Have you ever seen anything like this? Visus asks the others.
This is the stuff of nightmares. Look at those scenes on the wall.
Warrior agrees. Which psychopath would ever come up with such despicable images? Maybe someone who experienced it, Licinia answers. They squint their eyes when they observe the details of a battle scene, depicted on a wall, where zombie-like creatures rip apart the torso of an elven warrior. Other images portray limbs stacked up below a bellowing skeleton warrior, or the beheaded leftovers of unfortunate victims. More depictions of death and agonizing screams by terrorized victims can be seen on the walls, pillars, and ceilings. It almost makes Visus sick to look at them, and he feels grateful for having such a strong stomach. Disgusting, Britko says as he keeps moving forward. There is an evil presence here, Licinia says. I can sense it, and I am not saying that because I am horrified by these ghastly paintings. It's something else. They hear a sound, a rumbling noise in the distance. The ground shakes a little, and dust is thrown into the air by an unknown force. The four warriors are getting ready for whatever it may be that will come their way. They have pulled their weapons and are standing with their backs against each other, hoping to not be overcome by some unexpected enemy. There, Licinia suddenly says. Watch out. Between the smoke, the dusty debris, and the rumbling turmoil, undead creatures crawl out of the cracks between the sloppy bricks and rocks. Some of them have rotted to the bone. Others still consist of partial pieces of flesh and decaying flesh. Skeletons and zombies are coming from every direction. Their numbers soon add up, and they are surrounding the group of elven heroes. What are these things? Visus asks.
I don't care what you call them, Warrior replies, but it looks like they have already been dead. But now, they have woken up.
Great. Thank you for that explanation, Licinia says sarcastically.
We need to work on our communication, Warrior says. It would be good for us to do so.
Us? There is no us. I don't know where you get this idea that I am interested in you. Could you two lovebirds cut the nonsense and focus on the problem at hand for a while? Britko says. What do we do?
Visus, what do you think?
Warrior asks. Visus is surprised that Warrior wants to know what his advice is. He doesn't consider himself to be the leader of the group, especially since Britko is so much bigger, and both Warrior and Licinia have bigger mouths, figuratively speaking. But he is willing to take the lead this time and look for a solution. Visus says. Let me think for a second. Well, don't take too long, Britko says. I'm not looking forward to joining this little army of the dead. Yes, and it's not so little anymore, Licinia added. Look at that. There are hundreds of them. Visus looks around. The army of zombies and skeletons has increased significantly in number. There are literally hundreds of them. He knows this brave group of warriors will be able to knock out or re-kill several, if not dozens. But hundreds? No way. There is no way they will get out of here alive if they simply try to fight their way out. Besides, the number of undead soldiers keeps increasing. It looks like there is no end to it. They crawl on the ceilings, they stumble across the room, and they slide down from the walls. It is an overwhelming, sudden change of circumstances the four of them hadn't counted on.
Well,
Warrior asks,
do you have any ideas, genius? Or are we going to die here like the dwarves?
Let me think, Visus answers. I just need...
Well, think harder,
Warrior yells.
We're about to die.
It bothers Visus, the pressure. He hates making rash decisions, although he has discovered that with his personality, when things get critical, he is perfectly capable of doing so. Memories flash through his brain. His mind wanders off to the connotations of practical solutions and previous victories. Then he remembers Melthor's house. Melthor. He handed him some spells and potions. There's got to be something in there. Visus reaches inside his knapsack and prays that he will be quick enough, noticing the approaching undead. There! I've got it, he says. It's a piece of parchment with a spell on it. A spell that he can only use once, according to Melthor. Visis was going to save it for later, but he acknowledges that if he doesn't use it now, he won't have that chance anyway. It's all coming back to him. He remembers Melthor's exact words.
You can only use it once. It will make you invisible for a considerable amount of time. You could find it useful for when sneaking past an enemy or defeating a quick creature. Make sure you don't lose this.
Visis looks at the words in the paper. They have been written in the ancient elven language. Saya se shiem, Saya thruwe, she theme, Saye shihim, Visis mumbles. As he turns invisible, he grabs the other warrior's hands and notices that they turn invisible too.
Whoa, Morian says. I just became invisible.
No kidding,
Britko says.
Way to go, Visis. Let's sneak past these creatures before the effect wears off.
I could think of other ways to use this spell, Morian snickered.
If you're thinking about spying on me when I'm bathing or something, I will slap you so hard right now that you will wake up next to those undead zombies.
Licinia sneers.
Hey, why would you assume the worst in me?
Morian asks with a smirk on his face.
Oh, you. Whatever.
It can only be used once, guys, Visis says, so let's use it before they notice us.
I say we run instead of sneak past them,
Britko says.
They cannot see us anyway, so let's take advantage of that. Sure, they'll hear us, but by the time they realize what happened, we will already be in a different room.
Good idea, Visis confirms.
Ready? Go! Run!
The four of them run past the skeletons and zombies, elbowing, slashing, and dashing through them. The undead army reacts. They run after the elves with a surprising speed, but since the elves are invisible, they have no clue in which direction they should go, and they quickly lose track of them.
There! A door!
Britko says.
Let's head that way.
When the brave warriors reach the door, they disappear behind it and close it. The giant steel door gives them a breather, since it shuts firmly and doesn't allow anyone to reopen it easily.
That was close, Morian says. I could feel my heart beating faster than ever before.
Where are we anyway?
Britko asks. I don't know, but we should keep moving, Visis says. Something tells me the second diamond is around here somewhere, and I don't intend on wasting any more time. He takes a few steps in the opposite direction of the door and falls through a pitfall.
Ah!
He yells as he disappears, down into the deep. His voice resonates through the long, narrow space, and it fades until Visis' friends hear a loud thud.
Visis, are you okay?
Britko shouts.
Ugh.
Visis moans.
Don't come down here, guys. I barely survived this fall myself, and my leg hurts. Don't take the risk of jumping down. Can you see anything down there?
Not a thing, but I still have this torch. It's fine. Don't worry about me. He rubs his leg. Nothing serious, just a big bruise. It reminds him again of how fragile the elven body is, and how vulnerable he really is, despite his blind courage. Visis lights the torch from his knapsack and notices that the invisibility has worn off. Just in time, he thinks. If it would have been any shorter, we would have been dead. Now, where do I go now? 10. Lost. Feeling the complete opposite of how he felt in the room with the despicable paintings, a sudden gush of loneliness overcomes Visis. He's lost. He doesn't know where to go. He has fallen into a pitfall. A trap, perhaps. Or maybe just a flaw in the building's maintenance. Whether it was broken tile or an intentional obstacle, he does not know, and he does not care. He must get out of here. He is alone. The others have moved on. They cannot come down here. It would be too risky. There were sharp edges and rocky walls Visis had barely touched. Besides, the way he landed was a miracle. If they would come down here, they might end up being crippled for the rest of their lives. No. He has to do this by himself now. It's all up to him to get out of here. A feeling of terror gives him the shivers. He realizes the danger of it all. This time he got lucky. But all the dwarves got slaughtered in these ancient ruins, and it didn't take much for them to be surrounded by possible death themselves. And now, he got away with falling down a deep trap. Maybe it was all luck. Maybe someone is looking out for me, he mumbles to himself. Or perhaps it's just my destiny to succeed. Visas doesn't know the answer. Philosophical notions have entered his mind frequently, but when talking about the sequence of certain events and the connection between them, he remains in the dark. The dark. Like this dark hole he has fallen into. Glad I got this torch, he says. I wouldn't be able to see anything. Indeed, the only thing that keeps the place from being pitch black is the torch. The fact that his friends are up there, supporting his cause, makes him feel stronger. Flashes of his dead parents and kidnapped girlfriend frustrate him. His life hasn't been exactly easy since the destruction of Wrensville, but when he thinks of the awful stories these warriors have told him, he wonders if it was just a disaster waiting to happen anyway. Fate? A coincidence? Maybe, but apparently, behind closed doors, a lot of things were going wrong anyway. If the orcs wouldn't have come, maybe it would only have been a matter of time before he would have become the victim of the corrupted in that village. Visas' brain is racing. His thoughts are trying to connect the dots. Okay, enough, he finally says. I can speculate all I want, but what happened happened. The only thing that matters now is that I get that second diamond. He looks to the left and to the right. There are several ways he can go. Since he doesn't have a map, he just makes a decision. Fine, whatever. This could be the way out, he says as he begins to walk. The space is tight, and it triggers a sense of claustrophobia in him. But with some wiggling, walking sideways, and crawling, he finds his way to another tiny open space, with more directions to pick from. Now where? He says out loud. He chooses another path and finds himself making similar maneuvers through the rocky walls beneath the tombs. What a maze, he complains. How am I supposed to find my way here? Intuition? Pfft. Is there even a way out? The thought enters his mind there might not be, and that he will be stuck in here forever. If that is the case, they would have to go back and yell until his friends would hear his cry and lower down a rope or something. But even then... Let's not think about it, he encourages himself. There must be a way out. Visas goes left, jumps over a few rocks, and almost drops his torch, and he crawls beneath yet another space. The entire place reminds him of the ice caves they had been in earlier. I hate stuff like this, he murmurs again. Who designs places like this? As he figures that he will probably never find the answer, his thoughts drift away. It feels like going through a routine. Climbing over another rock, squeezing through 2 walls, and lying down on the ground to see if he can crawl through another tight space. It becomes tedious, boring, and he thanks the heavens he cannot see, that he has sufficient energy to keep doing it. Visas begins to daydream. He tries to get his head wrapped around the sword of Adamus, the curse, and the entire history of the elves and the orcs. When he thinks of it, it dawns on him again that he knows very little about it. How come nobody ever told him about this? Did they not know about it either? Or was it so long ago that the elves just forgot about it? It frustrates him. He remembers learning some historical facts in school and drawing the conclusion that the elves fall back into the same cycles of poverty, humility, progress, prosperity, and then corruption and arrogance. He sighs. Why will they never learn? He turns left, then right again, and then left. He turns every few minutes, and he loses count of how many turns he has taken. Not recognizing a single spot, he ventures his way through a labyrinth of narrow pathways, a network of poorly constructed pillars and rocks, with no images or colors. It feels depressing and endless. It has been hours since Visas fell down. He's getting tired. He feels it in his legs. Even though he considers himself to be in good shape, he realizes that his body, too, has limitations. As the hours go by, and he climbs, walks, and squeezes through the walls of the cavey maze, he wonders Again, if there is even an end to it. What if it goes on for miles and miles? Eventually I would just die of fatigue or starvation, he fears. All would be in vain. He sits down on a rock, discouraged and exhausted. The thought of his Solana is his only pleasure. It's as if it is unreal. She always seems out of reach, as if a happy ending would be too good to be true. Instead, he gets to see how elves and dwarves get slaughtered before his eyes, how children get locked up by perverts, and how evil creatures from the shadows attack him for no other reason than trespassing. Life, he mumbles. What a drag. His negativity surprises him, and he catches himself as he says it. Even under these dire circumstances, and with these traumatic memories, he still believes in the power of optimism, the magical force of good, and a destiny he is supposed to live up to and create for himself. He is disgusted with the fact that even he has a hard time staying positive, and he rebukes himself for it, almost apologizing to nobody in particular. Caught up in his own world, he suddenly realizes that he is not in the dark anymore. He notices a light, which is shining through one of the cracks in the wall. This might be it, he thinks enthusiastically, and he stands up, ready to move through a few more tiny spaces. Visas can vaguely see the shapes of a room he can enter to escape the madness of the maze. You see, he tells himself, still being hopeful. I knew it would lead to somewhere. It just took a while. Eventually, he reaches the room and crawls through the last narrow pathway. When he looks around him, he begins to laugh. Who knew I would find the diamond here? That fall was the best thing that happened to me. 11. Onward. The room in which Visas is standing is fairly consistent in its patterns. Several decorations can be seen at the ceiling, but nothing fancy. The room almost looks unfinished, as if someone was hurrying to get it done and hide away the diamond. Visas doesn't care, because he is too happy about finding the diamond in the first place. It just means that he is closer to his goal of stopping the orcs and rescuing his beloved girl. Still, he treads carefully. With the image of the dwarves on his mind, he doesn't trust this place. Traps could be anywhere. Unfortunately, the insidious nature of the architects has already shown to be effective that day. Step by step, he moves forward and reaches the diamond. He is about to pick up the shiny object from the pedestal on which it lies, when he suddenly remembers what occurred in the ice cave. Before he grabs it, he double-checks everything, but he finds nothing. He still doesn't trust it, but he accepts the fact that he cannot find anything suspicious. He shrugs and picks up the diamond. It is somewhat heavy, and he puts the object in his knapsack. Still, nothing. Perhaps I became overly suspicious, he concludes. He closes his knapsack and is about to walk away when he sees the wall through which he came. Hey, where's the crack? He shouts. He runs toward the wall and touches it with his hands, making an attempt to discover the entrance through which he came. It is gone. It is completely gone. What sorcery is this? He says in disgust, stepping backwards and taking a better look at it. Is this the booby trap? Visas pulls his sword and waits, keeping his eye on his surroundings. He expects any creature, any vile monster to suddenly attack him from behind. He turns around, and again. Nothing. He is still alone. He waits a little longer and finally puts his sword away. Weird, he says, pondering what to do next. He glances at the ceilings, the other walls, and the wall in front of him. Yes, this is the trap, he says. This must be it. I am stuck here. I can't get out. Calmly, he analyzes each and every wall by walking up and down from one end of the room to the other. When again, he draws the conclusion that he is stuck, his patience turns into rage. Open up, he shouts at the wall. Stupid wall, this isn't fair. Visas kicks against the wall, bangs his shoulder against it, and takes pieces of rock to bash it in. He kicks and punches and pushes and yells, but the wall won't budge. No effect. The wall remains. No opening sheds light on the situation. No shimmer of hope enters the closed room. Visas sits down on the floor. He breathes heavily, taking a rest. When his breathing slows down and he regains control of his emotions, he takes the diamond out of his backpack and takes another look at it. "Odd piece of junk," he says cynically. "It may be valuable, but who cares? What good is having a diamond if you can't even get out of a silly room? People and their riches. I never understood it, the obsession with gold and jewels." After gaining another sense of the uselessness of this item in a closed room, he puts the diamond back into his knapsack. His hand touches another piece of paper, and he pulls it out. "Oh," he says. "Duh. How could I have been so ignorant?" The piece of paper has a spell on it. Another spell that can be used once. A spell that turns out to be the answer to his problem. He remembers the words of the old wise elf mage who handed it to him and told him that he could
teleport into another location
he has already seen. But if I use it now, Visas thinks, I will never be able to use it again. He realizes he has a difficult time letting go of things. Why would he save it for later, if it saves his life right now? There must be something wrong with him, he thinks. Or maybe he is just too cautious, always planning ahead. He mocks his queer character. Funny that Solana wants to put up with all of that, he tells himself, trying to find the humor in the situation. Sometimes I wonder what she sees in me. Then he decides to read the spell. Ancient words of a supernatural origin appear on the paper. Where Melthor got all this stuff is a mystery to Visas. Clever old elf, he thinks. Then he reads, Ki la fa, la shi rani, thi la shi thi lay. As he reads it, it is as if his thoughts are being timed. Memories of different locations speed through his mind, revealing places he has seen and been to, but the spell requires a quick decision, and it startles him. Visas closes his eyes and picks one, not knowing how else to do it, and fearing that the spell might be a waste if he doesn't make a choice fast. Poof! He appears in the main hallway of the same ruins, the room where the dwarves had entered before they died. The room is full of tombstones and coffins, and the historic battles are displayed on the walls. Visas knows this room leads to the entrance where they first entered the ruins. Now it is only a matter of time before he can exit the edifice and wait for his friends outside. He hopes he made the right decision by teleporting to this room, and the other elves will make it out alive. He glances at the tombstones and wonders if the zombies and skeletons emerged from this hallway. It doesn't matter, though. They are far away, on the other side of the room with the broken bridge. They cannot come back. They cannot hurt him here. But then something alarming catches his eye. The giant coffin, the one that had the enormous skeleton in it, is empty. To say that Visas is becoming a little nervous is a big understatement. He steps back and pulls his sword. No, he says. You're kidding me. It dawns on him that the skeleton that seemed to be about 4 times his size has been taken, or risen, or disappeared in some other way. He fears the worst, and he feels his legs shaking when a loud thud sends a shocking vibration through the floors of the room. Visas looks behind him. I am so dead, he mumbles as he looks up and almost drops his sword. As he turns around, he looks into the glimmering red eyes of a gigantic skeleton. Its head almost hits the ceiling, and its hands are twice the size of Visas' head. The skeleton roars loudly at him, as a beast ready to devour its prey. Visas takes a few steps back and holds his sword in front of him. The skeleton doesn't hesitate. It swings its arm at Visas, and Visas ducks. Next, the skeleton tries to stomp on Visas, but he rolls away. Visas takes courage and storms at the creature, trying to stab it. But the giant skeleton punches him so hard that Visas flies back against the wall, hitting his head against the rocky surface and falling down on the ground. He groans. He looks up and sees the skeleton approaching him and towering over his weak little body The skeleton is about to squash him like a bug, but Visis finds the strength to move away. Still alive, he thinks, panting heavily. The skeleton attacks Visis again, but Visis cuts off a bone, a finger. When the skeleton steps back and roars in agony, Visis almost assumes there is a chance he might actually defeat this undead creature. But when he sees that the finger heals within a few seconds, his mouth falls wide open. Seriously? He says, accusing fate of the difficulties in front of him. How am I supposed to kill this monster? The skeleton doesn't care about Visis' reaction, obviously, and continues to fight. Visis evades one move after another, but is still trying to figure out what he should do. Then, all of a sudden, Visis finds himself in front of a pillar. The skeleton punches, misses Visis, and causes the pillar to shake heavily.
Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Brum.
It's going to fall, Visis yells. The pillar collapses. Visis watches the ceiling for a second or two, and then notices the entire structure is about to collapse. He runs as fast as his legs can carry him, out of that cursed hallway. When he is outside, he keeps running, hoping to avoid any damage and protecting himself from the crumbling building. But he is unable to do so. A big brick from the ruins falls down on his back, dragging him to the ground. Oof! He exclaims. What? Visis tries to stay awake, convinced of how important it is to escape even further from their recent threat. I've got to... Too much pain. He cannot handle it. He struggles to get the giant brick off his body, but the more he exerts himself, the less energetic he feels. Slowly, but certainly, he loses it, until he is unconscious. 12. Visions of the past. She remembers it vaguely, the pounding on her head that almost knocked her out. Despite their assumption, however, she didn't black out until after they left the village. It's as if the trauma of it was so intense and gruesome that she forgot it ever happened. The shock must have been so heavy that her mind suppressed the memory, and since her head was hurting so badly, it must have been one of those moments that caused her to wonder if it actually took place, or if it was a blurry vision of what could have been there. And so it is at this moment. The blurriness makes her drift between a world of nightmares and actual disturbing recollections from the past. They take her back to that moment, the moment the orcs were fighting her boyfriend.
She comes with us. She looks like a perfect one to capture. Knock her out and we shall carry her away.
Yes, sir. The orc's words still echo through her head, as if she is there again. Visis must have assumed that the blow on her head had knocked her out immediately. It didn't. She was fully awake. She finds herself back in that memory, as if the past has turned into the present. It all seems so real. She is there. She is back in that time frame. Bang! She relives the moment. She feels the blow on her head as she falls over. One of the giant orcs catches her before she hits the ground. He then sloppily puts her on his shoulder. She feels the bumps as he walks away, followed by the other orcs. Solana's eyes are halfway open, and her arms and hands are hanging down, occasionally swinging against his green back. Rensville is under attack. Her boyfriend tried to fight them, but for some reason he could not kill any of them. Solana still can't believe the orc just pulled his sword out of his intestines and kept fighting as if nothing had happened. What are these monstrous creatures made of? Is it true that they cannot be killed? This is insane. The penetrating sense of despair flows through her whole body as she watches Visis drop to the ground. He is not getting up. Is he dead? She wants to move, but she can't. The pain is too intense, and she feels as if she could pass out at any moment, and after some of the scenes she witnesses, she wishes that she had. The orcs are carrying her through the village. Homes are burning. Shrieks are echoing through the streets. Things seem to be moving in slow motion, making the mental agony of the accidental visuals even more distressing, with the heat of the fire coming right at her. While being on the shoulder of the said orc, she watches as several of Renville's civilians are cut in half, and others are decapitated. One woman has fallen on her knees. She has countless necklaces, bracelets, and golden jewelry all over her body. Surely this woman must be one of the richest inhabitants of Rensville, or so Solana assumes. As one of the big orcs approaches her, she begs for mercy. She receives none. Solana closes her eyes for a second or two, and when she opens them, she sees the woman bleeding to death. The horror of it all cuts through her soul like a sharp blade. She cannot bear it. The massacre. The villagers are getting slaughtered one by one, male and female, rich and poor. The orcs make no distinction. They don't care about money or status. They have no morals. Blood is squirting in the air, coming from several places and landing in tiny drops on her face, like a thick red fog. Bloodlust is the orcs' guideline, and for a reason Solana doesn't understand, they have spared her life and taken her with them. She squints her eyes as she sees a man burning to death while running from his home. The church is on fire as well, which proves again to Solana that these orcs have no consideration for anything or anyone, not even things others perceive as sacred. A battle is raging inside of her as well. She doesn't want to watch, but she knows there is no erasing these cruel displays of mayhem from her mind, and yet, at the same time, she keeps watching, hoping that some of the elves will escape their doom, or perhaps because she thinks that by looking, she may influence the situation. She hates herself for it, condemning her intentions and labeling them as mere curiosity.
Help me!
No!
The agonizing cries of her people are excruciating and harsh. She witnesses a crawling old guy who lost his legs, only to be finished off by one of the smaller orcs. With tears in her eyes, she reaches out with one hand to a woman who tries to run away, but gets stabbed from behind by an orc with a pointy dagger. There is a man who fights the monstrous giants in vain. He stabs one orc with his sword, only to be decapitated by his own weapon after the enemy pulls it out and laughs at him. Her eyes are wide open, trying to process the revulsive image of several middle-aged she-elves being impaled on spears that the orcs have stuck into the ground. She tells herself, in her mind, that this must be what hell looks like. And her head hurts. Oh, it hurts so much. But what about her parents? Where have they gone? She knows that Visa's parents got brutally murdered in this chaotic mess, but she is unaware of her own parents' whereabouts. Nevertheless, she cannot find the strength to escape and look for them. Besides, she knows where Visus is and hopes that he is still alive. She would go back to him first if she were capable of breaking away. With these thoughts in mind, she strengthens her muscles when the big orc that is holding her, after standing still, continues to walk through the village. Again, as earlier, however, her mind reaches out to the children. Where are the children? She hasn't seen any of them during the carnage. It's as if they are all gone. Are they still in school? And are the orcs attacking the school? Solana catches herself as she thinks about it. Her love for children has been shown in the past. She has taken care of cousins, babysat random children for free, and volunteered at the school. One of her greatest wishes has always been to get married to a loving husband and to have a big family. But the disturbing scenes trouble her so much at this moment that the only emotions that beset her are fear, worry, and disgust. An awful combination of reactions to a situation nobody could anticipate or mentally prepare for. And then, as if there is no coincidence, she suddenly happens to see a child. The little elf girl in the distance has brown hair like her. Solana estimates her to be about 6 or 7 years old. The girl is running from one house to another. Solana isn't sure what she wants to do with this. It appears as if the girl is safe, hiding in the corner. However, when she focuses her eyes and looks around a little more, she notices a slobbering, drooling orc with a butcher's knife and a big axe. He is following the little girl, and he is actively searching for her. Solana can't take it anymore. No matter how much she cares about the adults in this village, She cannot stand it when innocent children are being harmed. She wishes that she had the energy when Visis was knocked out, but somehow, at this moment, she manages to free herself from the big orc's grip.
Hey,
The orc shouts as Solana runs off.
come back here.
Get her!
Another orc says.
The boss wants a she-elf and he wants her alive!
I know,
The other replies.
but this one has a knack for escaping. Can't we just get another one?
She only escaped once, doofus. Get her back already. She's just an elf.
Fine.
In the meantime, Solana has taken a different route to the little girl's hiding place. She finds her in the shade, crying in silence and shivering with fear. It breaks her heart to see the child this way.
Come with me.
Solana whispers.
What's your name?
She asks.
Solana. Just be quiet now. No time for introductions. My name is Valerie.
The girl whispers back. They're about to get up and sneak away when they hear a low, malevolent voice.
Little girl, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you.
Shh. Solana shushes.
Don't move.
Little girl, I'm just a simple orc. I may look scary, but I'm just like your daddy. I will be good to you.
The tiny brunette is shaking more intensely, and Solana puts her arms around her.
Come out, wherever you are.
The giant orc says with a smirk on his face.
Do you want to play hide and seek? Okay. We'll play. I love games. Let's see who wins.
Solana sees the orc's shadow appear close to them. She knows they cannot stay there. She is terrified herself, but she tries not to show it. As she points to the side, the little elf girl follows her to another corner. Solana glances back and watches as the gigantic orc sticks his head around the corner and looks at their previous hiding spot.
Don't move around now, he says. That's against the rules.
His steps make the ground shake, and slowly he is moving into their direction.
If you cheat, you will get punished. You don't want to be punished, do you? No cheating. You have to stay where you are.
Thud. Another thud by one of his big steps, this time closer. Solana covers her mouth after she accidentally lets out a scream in a fraction of a second. Tears are rolling down her cheeks as she shakes heavily. The orc is almost there. Solana doesn't see another way out. At any moment now, any moment, the orc will come and brutally kill the two of them.
Cheater, pumpkin eater,
the orc says, taking another step.
I am going to rip your guts out, little girl. I will spill them all over the ground, because you're a cheater, and cheaters get punished.
The orc is laughing hysterically. Its shadow appears on the wall right next to them. Another step, another thud. Solana is so scared that she feels like peeing her red skirt. She isn't even looking at Valerie anymore. She doesn't even want to know how afraid this innocent child probably is. Solana closes her eyes and holds her breath, hoping that being more quiet will not give them away. She covers her head, hoping the pain of her execution will be over quickly.
Hey, Agrock! What you doing over there?
She suddenly hears another orc yell.
I'm looking for a little elf girl,
he says.
Stop wasting your time with such nonsense and help us find that she-elf.
What she-elf?
The young one. The one with the long brown hair and the headband.
What? Why?
The leader over there wants her for the sacrifice. Says she's perfect to bring to the boss.
Ugh. I was just having fun,
Argrok says, and with those words he leaves. Solana exhales. She is temporarily relieved. She looks at the kid next to her. Valerie is scrunched up against her and has her fingers in her ears. She is shaking as well, and her eyes are closed. Solana softly pulls the brunette's fingers out of her ears and looks at her. Well, Valerie, she says as she swallows, that was a close call. Let's get you to safety. Valerie nods.
Thank you. Do you think the bad monsters will come back?
They won't if they cannot find you, Solana says. But they will find you here. You have to get out of this village. I will guide you into the mountains. Solana gets up and grabs Valerie's hand. Together they sneak past the burning homes. Solana tells Valerie to close her eyes if she sees elves and orcs fighting. It's better not to see those things, she says, as she ironically realizes that she has kept her eyes open all that time. Through the back alleys of Wrensville, the two finally reach the foot of a mountain. Go up there, Solana says, and don't stop. Just keep going, okay?
But what about you?
The little girl asks. I must get my boyfriend. I cannot leave without him. I do not know where my parents are, but our house is on fire and I doubt that they are still there. Now go. Don't worry about me.
Okay,
Valerie says.
good luck, Solana.
Solana waves her goodbye and sneaks back into the village. What am I doing? She mumbles. Why am I going back? I should just escape from this hellhole. But she won't. She cannot fathom the thought of Visa's dying, or leaving this place with the knowledge that she could have done something about it. He would do the same for me, she tells herself. I know he would. He loves me. We will be together again. I cannot let this happen. She keeps her voice down enough to not get noticed, and although she doesn't like to hear the agonizing screams from her fellow villagers, she keeps her eyes and ears wide open to make sure she will be ready if anything or anyone comes her way. She knows where she is going. She remembers where they knocked out her beloved Visus, and she won't stop until she knows he is alive and has dragged him out of the battle zone. There she is, she suddenly hears. Solana is startled. She was so sure about her tactic, and she was being so cautious, but she knew it was a risk. That's the she-elf, the orc says. Gah! Panting heavily, she runs around the corner and weaves through the tiny alleys of the village, trying to lose them. Her long hair and her headband wave in the wind, and as she sprints away, she gets a little annoyed by the fact that it gets in her face when she turns around certain corners. She is scared. She assumes they won't keep her alive a second time, since she didn't hear everything the orcs were saying to each other, and she still doesn't understand why they only want her to stay alive. She fears for her life, and she does whatever it takes to stay out of sight. Because the orcs are pursuing her, she keeps looking back, and she doesn't watch where she's going. Bang! She runs into the hard chest of a big orc who was standing in her way. Where do you think you're going, elf? The orc snickers. You are coming with us. Solana is on the ground, rubbing her head and trying to regain her balance. Is this her? The orc yells to the others. Yeah, that's the one. Bang her on the head and make sure she doesn't wake up this time until she's tied up. Okay. The last thing Solana sees is a huge fist coming her way. Thud. Knockout. And that's the last thing she remembers from the raid on Wrensville. She didn't even reach Visus. She doesn't know what happened to him, and she hopes with all her heart that the little girl is okay. She fears for her parents, and mourns the cruel deaths of the other villagers. She wakes up from her nightmare. She's in her cell. The vague memory she hid away has suddenly come back to her. She remembers it all. The chopped limbs, the suffering elves, the blood and gore, the sounds of dying elves, the burning homes, the terrifying hiding game from the creepy, gigantic orc. It's all there. She is hyperventilating, and she has to calm herself down. When she breathes slowly again, she says, That's right. I will always have a scar because of what I've seen there. But at least, I think I saved one little girl that even looks a little like me from undergoing the same fate. It all makes sense now. They wanted me for the ultimate sacrifice, so they took me on their boat. And then I woke up and... Yes. Wow. I totally forgot about those things. That just goes to show you how out of it I was when they tried to take me the first time. She looks around her. The dark, disgusting dungeon isn't an impressive improvement on her nightmare. The nightmare which actually is a real memory. A rat in the corner watches her as she tries to get a bit more comfortable. Her dirty clothes still smell like the sewer, and she reeks of death and decay.
What a despicable place. I hope they get it over with fast. Just kill me already, stupid orcs. Is Visas even still alive? Maybe I am just giving myself false hope. Maybe I should give up trying. He could be dead now, for all I know.
Hey, you! Shut up in there! She hears. She looks up and sees the same sentry from before, the repugnant fat guard with one eye and rotting teeth. He lets his club bounce on his other hand and leans over. You will never escape again, he says. Just give up. Silana ignores him. What else can he do to her? She's practically dead anyway. It's only a matter of time. Just wait, wenches. You will suffer. She turns around and looks the other way, not giving him the pleasure of getting attention from her. She rolls over and listens to the sentry walking away, and puts her head down on the cold floor. She keeps her eyes open, afraid to fall asleep, and to be reminded of the bloody scenes from her memory. Eventually, fighting it isn't helping anymore, and she falls asleep. 13. Swamp Terror. Wake up, Visas. Wake up, he hears. He slowly opens his eyes and analyzes his surroundings. Britko, Warrian, and Licinia are standing around him. Britko reaches down and invites Visas to grab his hand, so he can stand up. Visas allows Britko to help him up. He checks out the environment. The ruins are still there, but some of the rooms have collapsed. The main hallway is open, and the giant skeleton has been pulverized. Well done, buddy, Britko says. How did you get over here? Visas asks. Oh, it's simple. Not an exciting story, really. We just found our way through a few more rooms and then we saw the exit, Britko answers. We were concerned about you, but when we heard the noises from the main hallway, we figured you could be there. By the time we arrived, however, we noticed that it had already been broken down halfway. Then we searched around for you. Good thing you survived. Yes, but my back still hurts a little, Visas says. Thanks for taking that boulder off my back. No worries, Britko says. Say, how did you get there anyway? Did those paths down there lead to the main hallway? No, I used a teleportation spell, Visas answers. I had to. I found the diamond, but then I got stuck in the room. There was no way out. You found the diamond? Warrian asks excitedly. Yes, I'll show you, Visas says as he pulls the diamond out of his knapsack. The others look amazed. They don't know what to say. Staring at the diamond, they realize they are one step closer to victory. The curse will be lifted, and the retrieval of this, the second diamond, makes the group of warriors a little more positive. Finally, Britko says, 2 down, 3 more to go. I'm proud of you, Visas. Maybe you are more special than you think you are. Or it was mere luck, Visas says. After all, I just happened to fall down there. Yes, but for a reason, Britko insisted. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Where do we go next? Visas reaches inside his knapsack and pulls out the map. This is where we need to go, Visas says, pointing at the map. It's an old temple. To get there, we have to go through here, this way. What's over there? Licinia wants to know. Well, it looks like this is a swamp, and after that, the flora and fauna change into that of a jungle. That's where we'll find the temple. Great, Licinia complains. Swamps. Just what I wanted. Those areas are sickening. Shall I carry you? Warrian asks. No, thank you, Licinia answers disdainfully. You wouldn't be able to anyway. Why a temple? Britko asks. I mean, what did they use it for? It makes me wonder. Another thing I don't know, Visas admits. Oh, I think I have a pretty good idea, Warrian says. The others are surprised by his answer. They stare at him for a second or two. And how would you know? Visas asks. Spiritual or superstitious rituals in these areas often include... Well, Warrian begins to stutter a little. They go, well, you know. No, we don't. That's why we are asking you.
Licinia says. I don't want to talk about it, Morian finally says. Let's keep going.
He is the only one who walks away, not even knowing in which direction he should be heading. Visis raises his eyebrows and Britko shrugs. Apparently he is too sensitive about it. Visis folds up the map and assures Britko they will probably find out more about it later.
What about the dwarves in the mines? Shouldn't they be informed of what happened?
Licinia asks.
Why do you care?
Britko wants to know.
No particular reason,
Licinia says.
I just think it would be best for them to hear that their men have died.
I understand your concern, Visis says, and I wish we had time for it, but we don't. The time is near. If we don't act fast, we will be too late. Solana will be killed and... Visis almost gets a little emotional as he thinks about it. And then, everything will be for nothing, and we cannot allow such things to hold us back. After all, we can't save them anymore. You were the one who taught me that. Licinia sees his reasoning. She nods her head and indicates that she is ready to go. Good, Visis says. We will tell them later. All that matters now is that we get those diamonds, get the Sword of Adamus, and go to Bor Gul to rescue Solana. Britko nods as well, and 3 of them follow Warian, who happens to walk into the right direction. The journey continues. The 2nd diamond has been retrieved, the 3rd is far away, and they cannot even comprehend the dangers that lie ahead of them. Still, they press forward, with hope and courage in their hearts, with a focus never before seen in anyone in Terra's history. After a while, Visis and the others reach the swamps. The ground is becoming muddy, and the trees have creepy spikes on them. A murky, gloomy feeling comes over them as they continue to walk through the messy muds and the dark, shallow water. Nobody has to tell them that they have reached the swamps. They all sense it. There is something eerie that reaches far beyond what they can grasp. The obscure powers of the local winds are whispering soft messages in Visis' ears. They pierce through his soul as if they aren't audible, and yet they are, but only to him.
This is definitely different,
Britko remarks.
Yes, but not in a good way,
Licinia affirms. An awkward, spine-chilling silence breaks through the disappearing muffled noises of the crickets and mosquitoes. Whispers of the deep can be heard, but not understood by the young elven warrior.
It all looks the same,
Morian says, looking at the vast swamps that don't stop at the horizon.
Where do you think we should go?
Shh, Visis says. The others are surprised. They look at him. They are trying to hear what he hears. Visis holds up his hand to make sure nobody starts talking again. He glances at the random trees, suspicious of danger.
What? What do you hear, Visis?
Britko asks.
Can't you hear that?
He asks.
We can't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Visis hears them clearly, though, the voices. And as he keeps listening, they repeat the same words, getting more audible with every second.
Return.
What? Visis says. Nothing, Licinia answers. We said nothing, Visis. If you're hearing something, then it must all be in your head.
Or perhaps some evil force is targeting him because it knows how important it is that Visis continues his journey,
Britko says. Sure, Licinia says sarcastically. And they don't care about us, do they?
Maybe they do, but I wouldn't know what to do with this guy. He's led the way and saved our lives so many times. Don't forget that.
Or perhaps he's just crazy. Hey, I am right here, Visis says after a while. I'm not crazy. The voices are telling me to return. They want me to go back.
Don't, Morian says. It must be a trick.
I will not obey them, Visis assures him. I just want to know why they want me to return. I'm listening to find out more.
Sure. But can we keep going after a little while?
Yes, of course, if they have nothing else to say. It's quiet again. The silence is as loud as 1,000 noises. It's beginning to annoy the elves, but Visis insists on staying put. He listens carefully.
Return and never come back. Go home. You are not welcome here. Go back or face certain death.
Visis pulls his sword. I don't trust this, he says. I don't know what we will find in the depths of these disgusting waters, but something is wrong. Pull your weapons." The others hold their weapons ready. Something is stirring beneath the surface. They notice the ripples in the mud and the slight vibrations in the dark corners underneath the trees. Visas focuses and squints his eyes to observe every detail. He stands firm, bending his knees a little and holding the blade directly in front of him. His suspicion was accurate. The four heroes don't know what is happening to them when suddenly an immense swamp monster appears in front of them. The filthy creature is nothing more than a collection of brown and black mud, rocks, branches, dead plants, and bones from previous travelers. Its arms are like tree trunks. Its hands are full of sharp claws, formed by the debris of the marshy muddle. The four elves step back and are ready to resist its blows. When it strikes, however, it goes right through them, causing them to almost choke on the soggy clutter. "Ugh!" Licinia coughs. "Gross. After we cross the swamp, I'm going to take a bath in the river or something." She sees Warrian smile and says, "And no, you cannot come along." His smile disappears. The monster has vanished. It feels as if the swamp itself is the monster, or shapes it in some way. Visas is concerned. "We cannot fight an entire swamp," he says. "If we damage this thing, it will just be remade by the swamp. The place is possessed. It's alive. We need to just run through it." "Run? Are you crazy?" Britko says. "You cannot run in a swamp. It's impossible. I can barely walk." "Then move as fast as you can, at least. Follow me. We will make it. This place is not going to stop us. We've come too far already." The other elves see his point and follow Visas as he steps forward and tries to get through the moist mess. He gets stuck several times, and it feels like some parts suck in his legs. Each time one of them gets stuck, however, the others reach out their hands and pull their fellow warrior up. It's a collaboration that is inevitable for the success of their mission. "I hate this," Licinia complains again. "How much farther is it?"
"Well, I can't see the jungle yet. Can you?" Warrian asks.
Licinia sighs as she pulls out her leg with two hands. It's exhausting and disgusting. Visas is determined. He fights through the exertion and hopes with all his heart that the monster won't show up again. But it does. Contrary to their wishes, the monster reappears in front of them, this time 3 times bigger. It's looking directly into Visas' eyes. Visas stares back and notices the green, glimmering eyes in this evil creature from the deep. "Watch out!" Britko yells as the monster lets itself fall onto the warriors. Just like last time, the warriors come out of the mess, coughing and spitting out that filthy dirt. But Visas is gone. "Visas?" Britko asks. "Visas, where are you?" The young elven warrior has been sucked into the swampy mud completely. His head is spinning. He wakes up in a realm he cannot identify, as if it is a dream. In front of his eyes he sees the monster, but they are both floating in the air. The area is black, and the only thing he can see is the atrocious shape with the green eyes, lighting up the environment.
"I told you to return,"
the monster says in an eerie voice.
"Why didn't you listen?"
"Because we have a goal, a mission. We will save Terra. We must go on. I won't listen to you."
"It's pointless and hopeless. Give up now. You cannot save them. Go to Crystal City and lead a comfortable life until the orcs finish you and your kind off. The future has been set in stone. Do you really think you can change what lies ahead?"
"I believe in the power of choice," Visas argues. "We determine our own destiny."
"No. What will happen will happen. It has always been like that. You cannot alter the alignment of the stars, the sequence of the universe's decisions. If you believe otherwise, then you are a fool."
"Why are you trying to convince me of this?" Visas asks. "Why don't you think I can succeed?"
"You are just a little boy, a young elf with lots of courage and no brain. You don't know what you are doing. I am connected to Terra. This whole world is ancient, and it has shown me your potential. You are useless, and you will fail. But hey, don't believe me. I have all the evidence in the world. Look."
The conversation ends. The swamp shows a vision. Theseus is astonished. Somehow this swamp is capable of presenting him with his own memories, but they aren't the joyous kind. Each and every failure in Theseus' life is portrayed in great detail. It feels real when he sees it. A young boy emerges. It's Theseus. He tries to sell a few swords his father has given him. They are in Wrensville, and his dad is with him. Passengers give no heed. They are shaking their heads or ignoring the little boy. The answer remains the same. Nobody is interested.
Madam, I am sure your husband would want to defend you with this beautiful sharp sword.
Leave me alone, stupid kid. I'm busy, the old lady replies. Theseus glances at his dad, who is only smiling and encouraging him. You can do it, son. Just stay patient. We really need to sell a sword today. I know we've been doing well in the past, but these are difficult times. If we don't sell one, we'll go to bed hungry. Just do your best. I'm doing my part on this end here. Hey, sir, would you like to buy a fine blade? Look at this one. Being in the same business with his father has given Theseus some good memories, but he remembers vividly what happens in this one. He keeps watching, lamenting the outcome he already knows. The end of the memory discloses the result. The end of the day is near. It is late. Each sword is in the same spot, on the same table. His dad hasn't sold anything, and neither is he. Mean comments and sneering snobs summarize the entire afternoon. He hasn't received a single friendly gesture. The demand for swords is low, and it isn't working in their favor. His dad admitted that morning that he made a mistake by investing in swords, and that he wishes he had bought some other things to sell. It's too late now, however, and they will have to face Theseus' mother without a single piece of bronze or silver.
I hate this. I hate this,
Theseus says.
This is useless.
The young boy kicks against the table and throws the swords on the ground. His father begs him to come back, but he is long gone. Theseus sits against the wall of one of the elven homes and crosses his arms. He is so angry. Why won't anybody buy a sword? They look nice. There's nothing wrong with them. People are just stupid. Before he can come up with some other offended thoughts, he suddenly hears footsteps. It's okay, boy, his father says. It's okay. We still have a small piece of bread in the house. We will eat that.
I couldn't do it, Dad, Theseus cries. I couldn't sell a sword. I failed.
It's okay. It's not that easy. You can't always do everything you want. Some things are just impossible in life. But if you keep believing in yourself, you will accomplish more than what you ever thought was possible. Do you understand? The little Theseus nods. Time stops. It fasts forward. The same village, a different time frame. Theseus is a teenager. He's already 12 years old. It hurts to see this memory, since Theseus has tried to process it without feeling miserable all the time. The sorrow, it overwhelms him. His mind almost sinks into a depression by thinking about it. His name was Arwen. He was a shy elvish boy, an introvert who didn't belong into the cliques in the school for teenagers. Theseus remembers that he was a little strange anyway. He is back there, the moment it all began. He is standing, as it were, in the past. School is over. The various elves return to their homes. Before they do, they talk, tease, run around, flirt, argue, and bully. And that is the problem. Arwen walks out of the school building. He turns around when someone taps him on the shoulder. Behind him, there are 3 boys who are a head taller. They don't seem to have good intentions, and Arwen already feels threatened.
Hey, elf with the ugly face. Yes, I'm talking to you. What did you do now to deserve a beating? A beating? I didn't get a beating. What are you talking about?
Arwen asks.
Oh, you didn't get one yet?
Well, we'll arrange that then.
What? Why? Why do you guys always pick on me?
Because you're a snotty dork, another boy says.
No, I'm not. Leave me alone.
Arwen runs away, not saying another word.
Hey, come back, dork,
one of the boys yells. As quickly as they can, they follow the poor Arwen into the woods.
Go away. Leave me alone.
Arwen keeps yelling. You're so stupid you can't even outrun us, one of the boys shouts back. Eventually, they catch up and start beating him up. He lies down in the dirt, defenseless, trying to cover his head and taking all the kicks and blows from the bullies from the school. He cries, which causes them to laugh at him. Eventually, they get bored and walk away.
What a wimp,
one of them says as he pats one of his friends on the back. Visas arrives at the scene. He saw that Arwen had run away, but he didn't pursue him like the boys did. And when he sees his classmate lie down on the ground like that, he feels guilty that he hasn't. Perhaps if he had, he could have stopped it from happening.
Are you okay?
Visas asks.
Okay? I'm not okay. Do I look okay? I have bruises all over my body, and I'm too weak to stand up for myself.
I'll help you next time, Visas says.
I don't need any help. I am worthless,
the young teenager says.
Just get out of here.
No, I can help you against those bullies. It's not fair how they are treating you. Why don't you go to the teachers?
And do what, be a snitch? They won't help. They cannot stop this. Those boys will just beat me up more if they hear that I told my teachers about it. It will just get worse if I tell on them. Besides, it would show, again, that I am too weak to defend myself.
But that is why I'll help you.
Listen, Visas, I appreciate your help, but just don't tell anyone about this. I don't deserve it, and it won't change the situation.
Visas is disappointed. He's trying to be a savior, a mediator, someone who helps those in need, but he is speechless. He doesn't know how to stop this problem either. Confronting the bullies probably won't help much either. They would just team up against him, and he doesn't want to tell the teachers about this. He kind of believes Arwen when he says it would only make it worse. Discouraged, he goes home. He keeps it to himself, not seeing the dire need for interference. He tells his parents about it, and they listen carefully, like all adults would, and suggest to tell the teachers about it.
How long has this been going on?
Visas' mother asks.
I don't know. I think it's been going on for a while now, but I just barely noticed it. He takes it as if he deserves it. I think he's got a serious problem. His self-esteem is so low that he becomes a target. It's like the bullies sense it. They smell it when they can pick on someone. Sadly, that's often what happens.
His mother agrees. That night, the young teenage elf Visas cannot sleep. He has a hard time with accepting injustices like this. Like doing a puzzle, he stays awake to figure out the best solution for the dilemma. The next day, he concludes it would be a good idea to visit Arwen. He knows where he lives. It's not far from his house. After walking over there, he knocks on the door. The parents are not home. The silence is spooky. It feels like something is terribly wrong, but to Visas, feelings of intuition don't make that much sense. They simply exist, and he doesn't always know whether or not he should take action when his gut is telling him to be aware of possible danger. This time, his young mind can't put his finger on the auras in the air either. It's just wrong. He walks around the house and notices that several ravens are flying into the window of the upper floor.
Odd,
Visas mumbles. He hates ravens. Those big black birds are often the first ones to sense it when death is around. Or the first ones to predict it as some sort of bad omen. Visas folds his arms and tilts his head. More ravens are flying into the upper window.
What the? Where are all these stupid birds coming from?
He asks himself out loud. Then he decides he can't wait any longer. He needs to know what those predators are after. He walks back to the front door and opens the door.
Is anyone home?
He shouts, just to check again. No answer. Visas walks through the living room, heads to the stairs, and goes to the second floor.
Shoo! Shoo!
He shouts as he waves his arms and chases the black birds back through the window. And then he sees it. He discovers what they were after. The shock hits him. The image becomes a traumatic print on his vulnerable little mind. He covers his mouth to keep himself from screaming with anguish. Arwen is hanging on a noose. The stool underneath his feet got kicked away, and he has been dead for a little while, or so it seems. Visas can hardly believe what he is seeing. Did someone kill him? Did those bullies do this? At first he denies that it's real.
No, no, no,
Visas utters. But then it all makes sense to him. The boy's low self-esteem and all the bullying and beatings had finally gotten to him. His sense of self-worth had hit rock bottom. and as a consequence, he had taken his own life. It is the first time Vises got confronted with death like this. A suicide, something that would never be erased from his memory. Feelings of anger towards the bullies, sadness because of the loss of this valuable kid, and guilt that he hasn't done more to prevent it beset him. He didn't know it could go so far. If only he had known about this, he would have stayed with Arwen to make sure he would consider finding better solutions than this. The vision blurs and turns into another moment. The moment Vise's parents got killed. He sees it again, the very second he walked into the room of his home. It's as if he is there again. The guilt, the shame. Had he only known about this, he wouldn't have left the village in the first place. He is back in that room, the room where his parents are bathing in their own blood. It hits him hard. It hits him like it did when he was really there. His parents had always been good to him, and now they are gone. While he was kissing his girlfriend in a romantic spot overlooking the village, orcs snuck up into his house and slaughtered his parents. How come he didn't see this coming? Where was the hunch that should have told him that his parents were in danger? Vises curses the orcs who took 2 innocent lives, and curses himself for having fun while it happened. He feels the frustration of failure to prevent this tragedy as well, and curses himself for caring more about his own failure than about how his parents must have felt. How could he be so selfish? How could he be so apathetic? And Solana, they took her, and he let them. He couldn't protect her either. He was powerless when a giant orc threw her on his shoulder, and now, because he couldn't prevent it, she will be sacrificed. She will be the one who will make the orcs eternally invincible. The truth hurts, and for this reason too, Vises abhors his incompetence. Why didn't he just take her back to the mountains in time? Suddenly, the vision closes, and the images are gone. Vises is stunned. He feels hysterical because of these accumulations of his own flaws. The swamp monster reappears in the space he is floating in and tells him,
"After seeing these depressing scenes, will you still persist you stand a chance? You failed so many times in life. You couldn't succeed. You couldn't protect anyone. Resistance to your true nature is futile. You will lose no matter what you do. What is your answer to this, Vises?"
"You saying I won't succeed?" Vises asks.
"That is exactly how it is. It's the truth. Nothing more."
"Well," Vises thinks for a moment. It is dead silent. His mind is processing everything around him. Then suddenly, with a will stronger than the steel of his blade, he grabs his sword. In an instant, he stabs the monster between the eyes and yells, "But at least I will die trying!" Ah! The monster roars loudly, and the black area around Vises begins to shake. Vises cannot deal with the shuddering air anymore, and closes his eyes, hoping he will stay alive. The swamp spits out the hero warrior, and Vises is launched several feet above the ground. He falls back down on a rock and groans. "Vises!" Britko says as he runs toward the young elf. "Are you okay?" Vises opens his eyes. "I don't think the swamp is going to bother us anymore, guys. Let's just move on and not worry about it." "Ha ha ha! You're a tough one, my friend," Britko says. "I'm impressed. Yet again. And I don't say that often." 14. Jungle Fever. When the 4 elves reach the end of the swamp, a thick jungle with numerous trees awaits them. They stand still for some time to rest. Wardian is leaning on his gigantic sword, and the others are sitting down on a few tree stumps that conveniently encircle an open spot on the ground. "Are we ready?" Vises asks after a while.
"Where do we start?" Wardian asks. "Look at this. You can't even see where you're going. Do you think you can find your way through these plants? It'll take hours and hours to cut through them, and then we won't even know if we're headed into the right direction." "Let's go straight, and then perhaps we will find a point with a view on the valley. There has got to be something around here." "After you," Wardian says.
Vises nods. He draws his sword and cuts down the first jungle plant. He cuts down another and another. The pieces of the plants and the ferns fly everywhere. The other elf heroes have taken their weapons as well and are chopping down the forestry flora in front of them. Wardian was right. It is taking a long time. They are getting fatigued, and their patience is slowly decreasing. Watch out, Britko says after a few hours. See that flowery plant over there? That's a man-eating plant. Don't even step within the distance of 5 or more feet. I've dealt with plenty of these when I was younger.
When you were younger?
Licinia teases.
How old are you again, Britko?
Oh, never mind, he says with a smirk on his face.
He rolls his eyes and slashes another plant in half.
There, Visas says after some time. See that? It's a rock. I can climb up there and see where to go next. I told you there would be something.
Well, Mr. Positive,
Licinia says.
We'll see you in a minute then, won't we? It looks like quite the climb.
It will be a piece of cake, Visas says as he shrugs. Easy. Watch me. He slits the middle of another small jungle tree and coughs. Ugh, mosquitoes. I didn't know there was a nest there. Otherwise, I would have walked around this one. Watch out, Britko shouts. He waves around him, twirling on one foot to swat the mosquitoes away.
They are bugs,
Licinia says.
What are you going to do? Stab them to death?
I just hope they are harmless, Visas says. I've heard stories. He chops down another tree and reaches the foot of the rock. Putting his sword down, he begins to climb. It looks somewhat steep at first, but once he gets going, he finds it to be rather simple indeed. He reaches the top within minutes, and when he does, he stands up, having a good view on the entire jungle. I know where we should go, Visas shouts down. There is a river over there. The river flows down into a waterfall on the other side over there. Then, across from the river, I see a... Wait, is that an orchard or something? Wow, interesting. Behind the orchard, we will find the temple. I see the tip emerging from the treetops in the distance.
Nice job, Warrior shouts back. Lead the way, Visas.
The young elf climbs down and draws it out with a stick in the mud. The others nod as Visas explains what he just saw from the top of the rock. Suddenly, he shivers and says, Are you guys cold, too? The 3 warriors look surprised. It's boiling in here, are you nuts? Britko asks. I'm freezing, Visas says. I don't know what's going on, but I am really cold. Don't you think it's even a little chilly?
Visas, this is a tropical climate, Warrior says. Look at us. We are all sweating. It's moist, it's hot. There must be something wrong with you.
Don't tell me it's the jungle speaking to you,
Licinia says mockingly.
I mean, talking swamps is one thing, but a jungle?
No, I think he must have some tropical disease, like dengue fever or something, Britko says. Daytime mosquitoes carry that disease around. One of those stupid bugs that flew up must have bitten him. Visas almost faints. He sits down on the muddy ground. Great, he says. That is going to be a holdup. It depends how bad it is, Britko says. Some last for days while others are over just like that. I need something warm, Visas says. I'm dying here. Please help me. I'm freezing. Britko reaches inside Visas' knapsack and takes out a blanket. He puts it on Visas' body and sits down next to him. The most important thing is to stay hydrated, he teaches. You have to drink a lot of water. And how do I do that? The jungle is full of water, but most of the water here carries all kinds of bacteria and poisonous diseases. It would just make me worse.
I know how. Just leave it to me, Warrior says.
What do you know about clean drinking water?
Licinia asks, laughingly, crossing her arms.
I learned a thing or two when I was young, Warrior says. Follow me and I'll show you.
Warrior and Licinia disappear. They cut down another path and swear they will be back soon. Britko puts his arm on Visas. Just take it easy, he says. Don't panic. Don't stress out. I'm sure it'll be over fast. Later that day, Licinia and Warrior return and let Visas drink out of a flask. It's clean drinking water Warrior has purified with a process of using leaves and other small resources. Visas remains sick. He vomits each time he eats, and his body becomes incredibly weak. For days, his vulnerable state stays the same. The jungle fever devours his energy as a ravenous wolf devours its prey. Hallucinations haunt his mind. He sees the girl of his dreams. She is being forced by orcs to climb the stairs to the altar, where they will sacrifice her. She looks dirty and frail, with no glimmer of hope in her eyes. As she drags her body to the top, The hundreds of orcs scream with joy. They know the curse is about to become eternal, and Solana is the one they use to solidify this. The poor girl puts her head on the sacrificial altar and closes her eyes. The orcs cheer. The muscled green executioner wears the frightening mask of an orc skull. He leans on his axe and laughs. Then he lifts his weapon up. The sun hits the shiny blade of the massive cleaver with a scornful, scouring physical light contrasting the darkness in their hearts. The axe is coming down to separate her head from her body when... "No!" Visis yells as he wakes up. He looks around him and notices that he is still in the jungle with his friends. Loyal to this determined, traumatized elf, they are still sitting down in the same spot. "Calm down, boy," Britko says. "It was a nightmare, nothing more." Visis is breathing heavily. Why are these visions terrorizing his mental cognizance? Would he not be sufficiently motivated without them? As he begins to calm down, he suddenly feels a lot better. He concludes that the disease is over and tells the other elves to get up and continue their voyage. "Are you certain you are ready to keep going yet?" Britko asks. "You are awfully sick." "Give me something to eat," Visis commands. "I am fine. We will go to the river and cross it. Then we will venture through the orchard and reach the temple. Let's go." After a small bite to eat, the four of them move into the direction of the river. Several hours later, they reach the riverbed. "Whoa, that does look like a beautiful spot, Visis," Licinia admits. Across from the river, the elves are staring at a stunning orchard, with pink flowers and blossoms on every tree. The ground, too, varies between lush green grass, purple flowers, and yellow plants and flora. "Let's cross," Licinia says as she looks at the sky and realizes it is getting dark. "I can't wait to spend the night there." "As long as it's shallow enough," Visis agrees. Warrian, however, isn't so sure. He hesitates.
"I don't know if it's that simple," he says. "It never is."
"Oh, don't be so skittish,"
Licinia admonishes him as she begins to wade the river. Warrian draws his sword. He carefully treads the water as well, but he stays alert. The others patiently wait to see what happens. They aren't in a hurry like the anxious young woman in front of them.
"Hey!"
Warrian yells as he suddenly sees the danger coming from beneath the surface. Splash! Shock! With one agile move, he stabs a huge crocodile attempting to put its teeth into the attractive she-elf. His blade penetrates the predator's head in an instant, and as the large reptile's blood mixes with the crystal-clear water, the saved female steps back and falls backwards. Warrian pushes his gigantic sword deeper into the crocodile's head, making sure the threat is gone and the animal is dead. He turns his blade one more time and then looks at Licinia, who is still lying on her back in the shallow river water. "Show off," she says with a smile.
Come on, Warrian says. "Let me hear it. I need to hear it."
She rolls her eyes and finally thanks him.
"Okay, you saved my life. I appreciate that,"
she says.
"Now can we move on?"
The elves check for more crocodiles and eventually cross the river. They walk for a while and then crash down in the tall grass. The flower petals float up as they fall into the beautiful area nature has provided.
"Ah, this will be one of the best nights we've had so far,"
Licinia says.
"Good night, guys."
15. Nymphomania. The spot where they decided to rest is tranquil and offers everything a person wants after a long day of journeying. Without a worry, the four elves lie down, not even considering taking turns to stand watch for possible threats. They conk out one by one, and the dreams they have are those of walking on clouds. Scents and soft sounds of fluttering butterflies and chirping birds accompany their comfortable experience. Then a sound, a light mumbling, singing, or humming. None of the warriors pay much attention to it. With one eye half open, Visis detects the oncoming rustling of the leaves and the rushing gushes of cool summer breeze. He thinks nothing of it, and he goes back to sleep. A voice is heard, a subtle expression of tenderness and concern, or so it seems. As the voice becomes louder and draws closer, it transcends its previous audibility. He opens his eyes and is startled. "Guys, wake up," he whispers. The other elves wake up immediately. Britko grabs his weapon, and Licinia stands up straight.
What is going on?
She asks. Around the 4 elven warriors, there are dozens of forest nymphs. They look similar to regular elves, but the leaves and branches circle around them in a mysterious way. Their skins are pure and beautiful. The smoothness contains specks of poison green, and their movements flow on the rhythm of their soft singing sounds. Moreover, they are scantily dressed, revealing uncovered parts of their striking female curves and swinging their hips seductively to draw the warriors' eyes to the steps they take.
Whoa, Britko says. Talk about the definition of beauty.
It's hard not to look, Warrian admits. I've heard of forest nymphs before, but I didn't know they looked this good. Licinia rolls her eyes, something she's been doing a lot on this journey.
Please,
she comments.
They all look the same. They're not that attractive.
Britko glances at her and says,
You're just jealous.
Pfft, Licinia says.
Whatever.
They are signaling us to come with them, Warrian says. Should we go? I think we should. How could such beautiful creatures have evil intents? Britko agrees.
They will probably take us to the temple. What do you think, Visus?
Visus isn't sure, but he doesn't trust it.
Maybe,
he mumbles.
I don't know what to think of it.
A nymph walks towards Visus. Her green skirt waves in the wind, exposing her upper hips and thighs. Visus catches himself staring at her naked stomach area and the cleavage above the tiny top she is wearing, realizing that, despite his loyalty to his beloved girlfriend, his mind moves along with his eyes like that of a typical, average male. The enticing power of these temptresses impresses him, and he almost feels as if he gets sucked into the dreamy moment that instantly causes him to forget his mission. He shakes his head, snaps out of it, and reminds himself of what needs to be done. But then he looks at the other elves. The irresistible forest nymphs have taken Warrian and Britko by the hand, and are leading them away. And Licinia? Where did Licinia go? She's gone.
Huh?
Visus utters.
What is happening here?
The enchanting nymph with her sensual figure is really close to Visus now. Her face is only a few inches away from his, and she moves forward to kiss him. As the other nymphs are still humming and singing an enigmatic song, Visus closes his eyes and gives in. His lips are sensitive. He can feel some sort of erotic, fake romantic feeling rush through his body when suddenly,
Solana,
he says, stepping back.
I must rescue Solana. I have nothing to do with you.
His soul is rested by the assurance that he stayed true to his love, and he sighs when he understands that he barely escaped an erroneous reaction to these beguiling creatures. But what happens next scares him. The nymph stares at him with a gaze that pierces through his mind and creeps into his thoughts. It is as if he is being hypnotized by the mesmerizing forces of this magical, siren-like female and the alluring echoes of their voices.
This is not right,
Visus says, stepping back. He senses how the invisible atmosphere is trying to take control of his free will, and he immediately begins to think of possible escape routes. The other elves are out of sight. Visus recognizes the necessity of getting a grip on reality first, before he can aid the others in fleeing the same powers he is struggling with. He remembers, suddenly, what could be his salvation.
The powder,
he says.
Resistance to hypnosis. Melthor gave me the power in the tiny pouch to inhale when coming across those who might manipulate my mind.
Visus reaches inside his knapsack and finds the said pouch. He opens it, puts it under his nose, breathes in deeply, and feels an instantaneous awakening of his intellect. Wondering how long the effect will last, he doesn't waver and takes action, evading the nymphs near him and running away to find his friends.
Britko, Warrian, Licinia, where are you?
Panting heavily, Visus panics a little. He cannot even fathom what could happen. The danger his fellow fighters are in. He has perceived the malicious thoughts of these forest nymphs, and the chance of the others being dead already crossed his mind several times.
Where are you guys?
No response. No answer to his desperate plea. Visus decides to keep running. He doesn't care in which direction, as long as he is on the move. The beautiful orchard forms a somewhat cynical setting for the ominous outcome of this little misadventure they are in. Visus sees movement in the distance. He moves closer.
Visas!
It's Licinia.
Get me out of here. The others are spellbound. Their senses are numbed. I tried to get them away from these nymphs, but I got constrained.
Visas hurries to the female elf and cuts down the lianas with which the nymphs tied her up. As he gives her a hand, she points to the right and says,
They went that way. It's like they're zombies or something. Ugh, men. Why are they always the same? A pretty face, a curvy figure. What's the big deal?
It's not just that, Visas says. These nymphs have supernatural powers within them. It is as if they can somehow control a man's mind. I've experienced it myself, but I was lucky enough to think of the powder Melthor has given me. Licinia raises her eyebrows and says,
If that powder makes you invulnerable to hypnotism, we must take it to Britko and Warrion immediately. I don't know what those forest nymphs are up to, but it can't be good.
You're right. Let's go. The duo sprints into the direction where Licinia saw the others go. When they approach the poor captivated souls, they notice the forest nymphs are leading them to a canyon on the brink of the flowery orchard. They are walking straight into their grave, Visas exclaims. We've got to stop them. Visas and Licinia run towards the two elven males. Britko! Warrion! Wake up! You're being controlled! Visas yells. Pointless. The two keep walking as if they cannot even hear or see their friends. Visas draws his sword and tries to attack the forest nymph in front of Britko. He swings his blade at the insidious woman and steps back after a failed attempt. Unbelievable, he says. They are like ghosts. My sword went right through her. She's ignoring me completely.
I guess we'll have to do it the hard way,
Licinia says, and she knocks Britko over. Oof! Britko falls to the ground, but then he gets up, pushes Licinia to the side, and keeps walking towards the steep canyon in front of him. Here, let's use this. That was the plan after all, Visas says as he takes the powder from the pouch and lets Britko sniff it. The giant elf inhales the dust and moves his nostrils around. It seems to be working, although the effect isn't as fast as Visas hoped for. He glances at Warrion, who is out of his reach and very close to the edge of the canyon. Licinia, do something, Visas says, still trying to make Britko breathe in the rest of the magical powder.
Fine, Licinia says. I will regret this later, but I will do what I have to do.
Warrion is being pulled forward by the ghostly hand of the flirtatious forest nymph. Licinia takes a few big steps into his direction, stands in front of him, sighs, and kisses him on the mouth. Whoa, Visas says. I didn't see that coming, Britko says after a full awakening and dumbfounded at the sight of Licinia's elaborate kissing movements. Warrion snaps out of it as well. What just happened? He asks. Licinia walks away and mumbles.
Oh, nothing.
The forest nymphs disappear. Their control over the four elves has ceased. Visas checks the environment one more time before allowing himself to be off guard. Britko snickers. Awkward. What? What is awkward? Warrion asks. Licinia just kissed you, Visas explained dryly, but I'm certain it didn't mean anything, since she was only trying to rescue you from those forest nymphs. Warrion looks at Licinia, who is trying to avoid eye contact. Is this true? Warrion asks. At first, she doesn't answer him. Then she rapidly turns her head and clarifies.
Yes, sure. I did that. I just didn't want you to die. That's all. Don't look into it too much.
Britko chuckles again. Visas smirks. It is rather funny indeed. The mind games these two have been playing. I'm glad you remembered that powder Melthor gave you, Britko says. Those nymphs were gorgeous, but they sure had some ruthless plans for us. I still can't believe I fell for it, Warrion says. It's not your fault, Visas assures him. They had hypnotic powers. There was nothing you could do against that. Stop beating yourself and let's move on. I think the tip of that building over there is part of the temple. It sure looks like it, Warrion agrees. Yes, that must be the temple. I know what they look like, and I am not eager to enter another one, but, oh well, I'll tag along. The four of them continue their journey, and soon find themselves standing in front of the impressive edifice. To be continued.